Meeting. Thank you guys for being here. Appreciate your patience as we finished up an executive session for litigation. We are now moving into the general session. And up first, we'll have a call to order. We do not have a pastor tonight, so we will be moving right into the Pledge of Allegiance. If everyone could please stand.
Please join me with your hand over your heart. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Councilman Aber. Thank you. All right. With that, do we have any changes, substitutions, or amendments to the agenda? If not, can I get a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as is.
All right, I have a motion. Do I have a second? Oh, Mr. Trammell. All right, I got a second. And Ray, are we up with the vote count? All right, there we go. All right, so we'll call the vote for the approval of the agenda. Seven, nothing. Motion passes. All right. Well, thank you all for being here. Happy New Year's to everyone in the audience and up here at the council. We are going to be going over the best holiday decorations. Every holiday is great, but I am a Griswold, so this one's a lot of fun for me as well. So we appreciate the staff who went around and judged everything. I'm always a little biased. I always think I could win this, but I don't think while we're up here sitting, we should be able to win. So I can't wait to term out or get out and win one of these myself one day. So with that, do you want to do the honors or you want me to read everything off?
Sure, you can.
Okay, awesome. All right, the first one, the biggest square on here for this little chart I have is the best decorated home, and that's going to go to Sarah. McLaughlin? Mullick? Is that the corner of Beach, Cardinal Lane? Yeah. Oh, Cardinal Lane. Okay, amazing. Yeah. All right. And Crystal Lynn at 301 Beach Drive. Crystal. Okay, you're on the corner. All right, not only, I'm going to do a little personal shout out. I do not know Miss Crystal here, but she is the one who I think decorates for every single holiday. So without you, I don't know I would even know what month it is, let alone holiday. So what is your reasoning behind that? Because honestly, I drive by year after year and wonder why.
I just like bringing joy to everybody. You just don't know what everybody's in a mood, bringing a smile to your face when you're having a bad mood. Also in memory of my dad that's no longer with me. And just everybody in the community. And you grew up here. And I did grow up here.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. We really appreciate it. Thank you. You absolutely are bringing cheer to everyone, so thank you. You got a photo? Okay. Awesome. All right. I was very excited for that one. Best decorated organization, Dolphin Point. Hey, awesome. Awesome. Congratulations. Good seeing you. Yeah. There you go. I got too excited for you. We can get a pose one later.
This is my main elf that just came in.
Oh, okay. Oh,
Our
nice.
maintenance supervisor. Come on.
All right, Mr. Elf. Yeah, no rush. Take your time. I know. It sounds like she worked you this holiday season.
Yes,
Yeah,
you
I
did.
work hard.
Well, we appreciate you guys.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, we'll get a, yeah. Oh, you got her? Oh, okay. Oh, she did get us. Yeah.
Do it one more time.
Yeah, yeah,
I
sure.
didn't even know she got it.
Uh-oh. Blame the baby. Awesome. Thank you, guys. All right. Best decorated business for, I think, the third time in a row, if I heard their social media correctly, La Paz. Yeah. I always, all right. You seem pretty excited, so I'm thinking you getting the award this year. Awesome. Congratulations, guys.
Best decorated drinks as well, right?
Appreciate you guys. Thanks for being a part of the community. Best of holiday Do we have a definition for that?
Best of,
Best of holiday, just
best-
all around?
yes, all around.
All around, all right. Tara Shepard?
Tara.
Tara? Oh, I'm so sorry. Tara Shepard at Indian Bayou. I'll leave the name out.
I did a video crazy of it.
Oh, nice.
Thank you. Oh, I guess hold it up. Sorry.
No, you're good. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for all your support and all your merry holiday festivities. So thank you guys so much. Happy holidays from the City of Destin Parks and Recreation Department and all the other staff members who make this possible. Awesome. So we have a riveting meeting. You guys are more than welcome to stay, but if you leave, I don't blame you. You can always see this on YouTube later. All right. Oh, look at it. Most people stayed. I love it. All right. All right. With that, we're up into the public comments. Everyone has three. Nope. Nope. Oh, there's a second one. Master plan presentation. Of course, the parks. Sorry. How could we miss the parks? Would have flown here for nothing. Or drove. All right, so all you got to do is hit that gray button up there. You don't need to hold it. It'll just turn red, and then that mic will be live.
Okay. Okay, very good. Well, good evening, Mayor, City Council members, and members of the audience. Good evening. My name is Carlos Perez, President and Principal of Perez Planning and Design. With me this evening is Philip Parnan, also a principal, but with Pros Consulting. And this evening, we look forward to sharing the findings from the Parks and Recreation System Master Plan. And we'll be referencing slides that you had in your packet. So this presentation, we can go to the next slide, focuses on the first two phases of this Parks and Recreation System Master Plan. Specifically, yes?
And for those in the audience, you also have a screen behind you. If that's a little too far, I'm starting to get to that age as well, I guess.
Great, thank you. The first two phases, context analysis, which is really focused on existing conditions, looking at planning context, park system context, demographic context. And then the second phase, needs and priorities assessment. And this is where we use a variety of techniques. We use the mixed methods, triangulated approach, 3 different techniques, primary quantitative, primary qualitative, and secondary data to identify what the needs and priorities are. You're going to see a series of charts this evening that show how the findings from these 3 techniques relate to each other and therefore identify the needs and priorities. An important part of this needs and priorities assessment is public engagement. And as you'll see on the next slide, we were really pleased with the engagement to date. We had over 450 survey responses, over 21,000 question responses, which is fantastic. Over 1,100 dots and coins that were used to also provide votes. And then also some really good interviews, both one-on-one interviews as well as focus group interviews. So question is, well, what are the findings, right? What did we learn? If we were to summarize what we've learned into 3 main concepts, these would be it right here. So the need to modernize the system, something that Mayor and Council are doing already in a lot of the parks, so congratulations in doing that. But also an opportunity to integrate the system. Not only integrate the system physically, you'll see that paved trails and sidewalks, connectivity is a major desire. So the need to physically integrate the system, but also integrate programs, services, and even seeing how other plans that have been done by the city can relate to each other and therefore stretch taxpayer dollars and maximize benefits. And lastly, optimize the system. Mayor and Council have spent a considerable amount of funding on parks, which is really great. And you'll see how that relates to your peers, and you should be congratulated for that. But there's an opportunity moving forward to really optimize that, considering the funding landscape that we may have in the state of Florida after November 2026. So what we'd like to do now is dig in a little bit into the findings to share how we came up with these concepts. And I'd be curious to get your thoughts to see if these concepts do relate to the findings that we're going to share with you here in a moment. So we'll start with the next slide, planning context. You've done a lot of plans in the last years, many park-specific plans, which is fantastic. And then you're implementing those, which is really great. But also a lot of citywide plans as well. And we believe there's an opportunity for the parks plan and these plans to relate to each other, to find what we call the intersectionality of where these plans relate to each other, and therefore achieve multiple benefits, right? So for every tax dollar that we spend, how can we achieve multiple economic, environmental, and social benefits. And we speak about that in our practice as creating high-performance public spaces that achieves those benefits. So there's an opportunity to explore that in future phases should mayor and council desire that. And that's really important considering your demographics. If you go to the next slide, and you know this very well, right? During season, you increase in population substantially. At least 40,000 new people that come into the city. And you'll see how in a moment that does have an impact on staff and the Parks and Recreation system. And you'll see some data to suggest that. But it's also interesting to see your age distribution. So 1 in about 2 are over 50. 1 in 3 persons are between 20 and 49. And only 1 in 5 are under 19. Right? So what that tells us in everything that we do, we want to be multi-purpose and multi-generational, in nature, with the mindset that we also have a predominantly adult population. So if we go to the next slide, you can also see this when it leads to trends. We looked at what we call market potential index. So that's data that looks at how dollars are spent within the city by visitors and residents on different parks and recreation resources. And as you can see from some of that data, well, let me explain that a little bit. So the green line that you see is the national average. The dark blue line is Destin, and the gray is the state of Florida. So we're looking at where is that blue line over, or the blue bars are over the green line. And so where we see that as it relates to sports is in pickleball, golf, and tennis, right? We're above the national average on those. But as we see other sports, mainly field sports and court sports, we are below the national average, right? And then when we see that also as it relates to fitness, you see that on the set of graphs below, and most of those are above the national average. So yoga, aerobics, walking for exercise, weightlifting, spinning, swimming, Pilates, jogging, running, and marathon, triathlon, and kickboxing, all above the national average. So clearly a population that is very in tune with the health and wellness as well. And the parks are a big part of that. In fact, if we go to the next slide, you'll see that in the statistically valid survey, which was our strongest technique, that was the mail survey that was sent out into the community. You'll see when we asked residents, have you used parks? 87% of respondents said they have used parks. The national average is 81%. So clearly a population that likes and appreciates their parks. And then when we asked them, well, what parks did you visit? If you go to the next slide, you'll see the top 3 up there. So Morgan Sports Complex, number 1, followed by Clement Taylor Park and beaches in general as the next 2, right? So no surprise there. And then we go to and we also ask, well, what are you doing in these parks? What's important to you in terms of what you're doing? And if you go to the next slide, you'll see that we have beach and water access, sports and kids activities, and playgrounds and splash pad. Those are some themes that emerged from what people were doing in parks. Now, we also asked residents, well, what stops you from visiting parks? And if you go to the next slide, you'll see the first one is lack of parking to access parks and facilities. So that was 29% of respondents from the statistically valid survey said that. But look at how it relates to the national average, which is that second light blue bar that you see as that second bar, substantially over the national average, right? So as if we were to move forward to a future phase, then that could be something to explore, right? How can we improve that? And then look at that second one. Facilities are not well maintained. 19% of respondents said that, just above the national average of 18%. So there's an opportunity to look at that as well. And so this theme of improving parks, we also saw in other questions. If you go to the next slide, you may recall, if you were in the public meeting or took the surveys, that we had a question that said, how would you spend $100 if we gave you $100 for parks and recreation capital improvements? And what you see on the left on the slide are the different choices that we provided. On the top, the 4 different techniques where we asked that question. Again, the statistically valid survey, that second column from the left is our most important, important technique. So we use that as our primary technique and then compare the others to it. But you can see that improvements, maintenance of existing parks and recreation facilities was that number 1 expenditure. And then you can see how 2 of the next techniques compare to that, right? From the online survey, the public meeting. So you start seeing consistency across the board in terms of where are we hearing that in the other techniques as a primary need. So number one, again, was improving that maintenance of existing parks and facilities, hence the concept of modernize. But also look at the second one, acquire new parkland. And we're going to come back to that here in a moment. If we go to the next slide, you also see that this idea of modernizing, improving parks also came out when we asked residents, well, how would you spend $100 for programs and operations opportunities? And so on the left, you see the different options that we provided. And that first one, increase staff to improve maintenance of parks and facilities. You can see across the board, it was that priority need or desire in that technique, followed by additional community-wide special events. And we also saw this willingness to, or this desire to improve, and even a willingness to pay more to see parks improved. In the next slide, you may recall that and then for the techniques we asked residents, would you be willing to pay increased taxes to see the park system improve? And where that yellow line that you see is where less than 50% of respondents said that they wouldn't be willing to pay more. And that threshold was about $51 to $75. So an interest in residents to pay to see the park system improved, which was really great to see. Now, there was a question that said, well, what is it about the park system that could be improved? What is it that is not as strong as other elements? So we learned that when we did our park site evaluations. If you go to the next slide, this is the most subjective part of our process. This is one that we went with staff, our team and staff went to evaluate all the parks. We have a form that we've used now for 20 years in evaluating parks. And the way we do it is we identify the best park in the system, which in this case was Captain Leonard Destin Park. And so we use that as our measuring stick, right, and then look at how the rest of the parks may relate to that in different categories. And we scored it in a 1 to 3 scale, 1 being poor, 2 being fair, and 3 being excellent. And so what we learned is overall, the park system scored at a fair. But if you look at that column, the one that scored poor was related to amenity conditions average, right? So those are things that no matter how much we maintain them, they need to be replaced eventually, right? Things such as basketball courts and piers and even the community center, volleyball courts, et cetera, right? So there's an opportunity to look at those in the future and see how they can be replaced. And we'll touch on that a little bit more in a moment as well. Another thing we looked at was the maintenance management. And I'm going to let Philip talk about this maintenance management findings under these concepts of modernize, integrate, and optimize. Philip?
Thank you, Carlos. So when we looked at modernizing maintenance management, we noticed that the department faces challenges related to aging equipment, inconsistent access to specialized tools, outdoor storage exposure, decreasing the life of the equipment, and slow procurement workflow. Lifecycle planning does exist, but it's fragmented and heavily dependent upon other departments within the city. Maintenance has improved recently through hiring of staff with specialized skills. One example specifically to note would be turf maintenance. When we look at integrating parks maintenance on the next slide, work orders are currently tracked inconsistently across multiple electronic systems, limiting planning and accountability. Preventative maintenance is informal and often overshadowed by pop-up immediate needs that take staff away from routine maintenance. Customer feedback is decentralized and often undocumented. However, staff do take this into account and act upon that feedback to make improvements. Next slide. When we look at optimization, the maintenance workforce is dedicated but stretched thin during peak season. Much of the department's routine maintenance relies on institutional knowledge rather than written and documented standards. Standards have been created with the staff this fall as part of the maintenance management plan in the master plan project. And there is no standardized method of utilizing the tracked information so that they can forecast additional needs as new assets are brought into the system. Carlos?
One of the benefits of a Parks and Recreation System master plan is that we can explore and identify what are those facilities and programs that are most important to our residents. And so what you're seeing on this slide are those high priority facilities that we learned from the statistically valid survey were most important to residents. And then, again, that third column it's based on the statistically valid survey, and then the rest of the columns, you'll see where we heard that as a need, right? So, for example, beach access, natural areas, nature parks, paved multipurpose trails, unpaved walking and hiking trails, and large community parks. And the statistically valid survey were the high priority facilities. But then you look at the dots, you can see where else in the techniques we heard those as priorities. So for example, as it relates to beach access, right, in all 7 techniques, we heard that as a priority. No surprise there. Natural areas, nature parks, we heard that in 5 out of the 7, as we did with paved multipurpose trails, 5 out of the 7. So you can start seeing consensus on what those high priority facilities are. If we go to the next slide, you'll see a similar chart, but for programs and services. And again, this is based on the statistically valid survey, and then you can see how it relates to the other techniques. But as it relates to programs and activities, adult fitness and wellness, nature programs, environmental education, community special events, movies in the park, community meetings, water fitness, cooking classes, music programs, and safety classes. Again, you can see where we heard those in all the techniques. So for example, as it relates to adult fitness and wellness, we heard that in 5 out of the 6. As it relates to nature programs and environmental education, we heard that in 6 of the 6 techniques that it was asked. And then community special events in 5 out of the 6. So again, we start seeing consensus on those. We also did a deeper dive into programs and services. And again, I'm going to allow Philip to speak to those within the context of modernize, integrate, and optimize.
Thank you. Next slide, please. So for modernizing program services and fees, the department's program mix is strong for youth, adults, older adults, and special events, but teens and young adults remain underserved. Only a small portion of the offerings are new or in what we would call the growth mode, limiting the department's relevance and competitiveness. Strong community demand has been identified, as Carlos said, for fitness, wellness, outdoor nature programs, arts and aquatics, but currently the department lacks depth in these areas to be able to meet the public's needs. Next slide, please. When we look at integration, the department uses a collaborative approach for program development and new program development, but workflows and evaluation tools are not consistently applied. Cost recovery is generally strong, but pricing inconsistencies do exist across program areas, and some of those categories could be recalibrated to maintain access and affordability for residents. Partnerships exist, but are not fully leveraged to increase staffing capacity, gain access to additional facilities that may not be owned by the city, or shared operational resources. Next slide, please. When we look at optimization, limited indoor-outdoor capacity is a challenge for the department, especially when we're talking about the ability to grow programs, especially during peak season. The department tracks several operational metrics with their scorecard, which is pretty impressive. However, those KPIs are not fully optimized in decision-making or program evaluation cycles.
And now we're approaching the last few slides of the presentation, really focused on level of service analysis. So if we go to the next slide, we'll start with funding level of service, focused on operations and maintenance. So the way we did this is we looked at spending over the last 5 years and developed a 5-year average for Destin, as well as your neighbors, and also cities with a similar population and population density as the city of Destin. And simply looked at that of spending per resident or spending per capita. So if we start with a column on the furthest column on the left, if we look at spending on operations and maintenance for parks in non-season, we see that we spend in the last 5 years an average of $176, which is really good, especially if we look at the other bars. We're near the top of many of those, so fantastic to see that. However, look at that second bar where it drops down to $62 per capita. That includes that swell in population that we have during season, right? So more people, less money per person, and that number goes down substantially, right? And you can see how it relates to the other bars to the right that were a lot lower, right? So that shows that we can see through the numbers the strain that we hear from staff during season, right? There's a lot more people, a lot more calls, really strained staff during that time. So this is operations and maintenance. Now let's look at capital spending. And again, mayor and council need to be congratulated on what has been spent on Parks and Recreation Services. If you go to the next slide, you'll see that over the last 5 years, mayor and council have spent about $28.5 million in Parks and Recreation Services and improvements, which is fantastic, right? And well above standards. If we go to the next slide, you'll see how that first column, and again, this is also a 5-year average, capital spending per capita, is well above the other benchmarks. Now, when we dig into this a little bit, we see that the bulk of that spending, if we go to the next slide, was spent on land, 80% of it, which is important, right? If we don't purchase that land when it's available, it's gone, and then it's really difficult to either purchase it in the future or more expensive to purchase it in the future. So mayor and council need to be commended on taking that initiative to purchase that land when it's available. But look at that number related to repair and maintenance services, about 2% of expenditures the last 5 years. So that also explains where we heard from the improvements to parks and the renewing of parks, right? So we can see the data coincide. So moving forward in the next years, it'll be important to consider how we spend dollars, right? Especially considering that the funding landscape in Florida may change dramatically. If you go to the next slide, we know that the Florida House has approved 4 proposals that would be future explored now through January through March to reduce property taxes, right? Specifically the non-school homestead property taxes. So should those be approved to be on the ballot, voters will get a chance to vote on that in November 2026. And if over 60% of Florida voters decide to do that, then there's going to be reductions in how much funding will be available for cities, and that will influence local government services. And we're going to get back to that here in a moment, but all to say that if we go back to the next slide, this takes us back to the beginning in terms of the concepts based on this data and analysis that we've heard, the need to modernize the system, integrate it, and then also optimize it, considering focused spending in the future. So what's next? Well, there's a potential options for mayor and council to consider. If we go to the next slide after this, one option says that we finish the report here based on these 2 phases that we've done. If we go to the next slide, we can make any revisions to the report based on mayor, council's, and staff direction, and we finish the project there. Or there's an option 2 to continue the project and get into the next phases, if you go to the next slide. And those phases would be focused on vision, implementation, and then final plan and adoption. This would give us an opportunity to explore various funding scenarios for how these property tax reductions may influence the provision of parks and recreation services, right? So, for example, we could take one of the most conservative strategies, right, that would reduce property taxes or remove them altogether, and then see how that would influence the parks and recreation services provided. What services or parks may we be able to continue based on what we heard from residents? Or what is the role of user fees and memberships to provide services? What is the role of the private sector in providing these services? And then also looking at, again, sponsorships, memberships, et cetera. That way, when residents go to vote in November 2026, should those options be on the ballot, then they're fully aware of how that vote will influence the delivery of parks and recreation services in the city of Destin, and then potentially even the quality of life in Destin. So that brings the conclusion to our presentation. Again, we appreciate the opportunity to present to you this evening, and we'll open it up now for discussion. Thank you.
All right, first I have Ms. Trammell.
Yes, Mayor, I'd like to make the recommended motion. I move that the city proceed with the Perez Planning and Design LLC for phases 3, 4, and 5 of the Parks and Recreation Master Plan.
All right, second. A motion, I have a second. Up for discussion, Councilwoman Trammell, Hebert.
Thank you for what you've done so far. And, looking at the continuation of what you're going to be doing, the system, vision workshop, Parks and Rec, vision, summary document, order of magnitude, advisory board vision presentation. In this visioning, is this where you also bring the citizens in, do kind of what you've been doing, sort of like rehashing and re-assimilating the data?
So we could do this a couple ways, and we've done this differently based on direction that we've gotten from staff and leadership. In some instances, we start with staff and stakeholders, where we look at the findings, look at working very closely with the finance department, looking at what funding looks like in the coming years, and then work with staff and stakeholders to determine the appropriate response to those needs and priorities. And then we share that with the public, right? That's one scenario. Another scenario is where we've done a public meeting, a visioning workshop, where the public is able to come. Both of them, whether it's stakeholder or public meeting driven, are organized and very structured meetings to collect the input that we need to at least create a draft vision. In this case, we would recommend scenarios, various scenarios, right, of depending on the available funding sources. Collect the information we need, develop, expand on that to create a draft vision, and then share that back with staff and stakeholders to get input, and then share it with the public as well. So we can do it either way.
The reason why I'm asking you is just looking at, what the cost is for the next 3 phases and what's been done so far. It kind of feels like some of it is almost like, not repetitive, but more like discussion. It's not like, okay, we need to replace the recreation in the community center. That's there's the no-brainer things, like more forceful of, here's what we're doing, here's what you're paying us to see, these are things you need to take action on. That's what I'm hoping you're going to do in these next phases if we continue to pay you to find out where we need to fix things. Because we have a Parks and Rec director that is dying on the vine, trying to do stuff with such old archaic equipment and buildings, and it's like pulling teeth to get monies to fix by what the residents say. We need to fix what we currently have, make our rec centers better, improve them, do things that make them a better, area for the kids to go in and play. Like the courts are, they're outdated. Everything needs to be upgraded. And we've talked about leveling it, just starting over. It's going to cost more to fix what we've got. So I want to make sure that we're doing, supporting this, that we're helping our director, who has been at this for years, to get what we need to push it forward, to help her, help us as a city and our citizens get us a better Parks and Recreation establishment across the board.
Yeah, I appreciate that's an excellent point. And yes, that would absolutely be provided in terms of a CIP. What are the things that need to be improved? What are the order of magnitude planning level costs, not only from a capital perspective, but also from an operations and management perspective? Because that's important, right? We don't want to improve something, but if we don't have the management dollars to support it, then that investment goes to waste. So yes, that will be part of it. In addition to the strategies, right, the actions, the steps that would staff and mayor and council would need to consider moving forward as well. So both of those things would be done.
All right, Councilman Gao.
Hello, sir. How are you today?
Well, how are you?
I'm all right. I'm looking at one of your slides where it says park conditions, and it talks about Osteen Park, and it says the amenities condition, and it gives it a 1.0. So I'm a little confused by that, because to the best of my knowledge, the only thing we have there is a bench, a trash can, a shower with a wood platform. And we all talked about putting a loofah out there to help decorate it, but we're a little concerned about the color because it might confuse the villagers or the visitors from the villages. So do you have any recommendations, or is that the second part of your study, the recommendations?
So when we looked at Osteen, there was one element there, right, which was one of the elements there that just needed to be replaced, right, and that's why that scored low, right. So what we've done now is we've identified that as something to be improved, right. The next step would be to look at that within the context of all the other improvements that need to happen, right, because there's a lot of improvements that may be necessary, but there's only focused dollars. So the idea is, how do we prioritize, right? And that would be the next step, is how does that improvement in Osteen relate to other improvements in the system, and where should we focus our limited dollars to improve based on what we've heard from residents and what we would learn in the next phase. Also considering that we may have very different funding sources after 2026, right? So some of these things may not be able to be improved or may take very long time to improve if we don't have the same resources. So
Thank you.
Yeah.
Councilman Bagby.
Yeah, thanks. I'm trying to reconcile the visioning, the next section that y'all are proposing, which is also the most expensive at $23,800, we have a visioning session. You know, we don't need to have 6 different visions. We need to have one vision, okay? And I mean, if the staff wants to invite you to our visioning session and you take 10 minutes of that day or whatever with the person that's doing our strategic vision, then that's fine. But to say, okay, we're going to do a parks visioning session, you've given us a vision, okay? We need to focus on the maintenance of our parks. We need to focus on, you know, our staff, okay? I think I got that. Personally, I don't think we need to spend $23,800 for you to tell us or come in and go, well, what do you want Osteen Park to look like? Well, you know, I want colors added, I guess. I don't know what, but do you see what I'm saying? So I'm probably, explain to me why we can't incorporate you into the city's visioning session for a lot less, as opposed to you coming back and meeting with the same people you've already met with, asking pretty much the same questions, except maybe more in depth, and saying, oh, okay, well, now here's the vision. Because I think we collectively have a vision for our parks. I think we've been working on it. You know, we've upgraded Morgan. We've got the pickleball courts. You know, we're doing those things. We're in the process. We've bought 2, with the county's help, 2 parcels beachfront property. You know, so we're doing those things. Why do we need to spend another $23,800 for another visioning session?
I appreciate that question. And yes, Mayor and Council have had visionings, and which is really great to see, right? A lot of cities have them, but they don't implement them. So it's great to see that Mayor and Council is doing it. This is an opportunity for us to dig a little deeper into that and see if there's other strategies that may have not been considered, and also relate that to best practices and what other communities have done or are doing to address some of these needs, right? So it is an opportunity to dig into these a little deeper and determine the appropriate response for the city of Destin, considering the funding landscape that we have, potential funding landscape scenarios that we have over the next coming years.
Yeah, I would just say, and that part I do agree. I'm all in for the $5,200 for funding options once the legislature is done and once the people have voted and we see where we are on property tax revenues and stuff. But to say we have a vision for parks, we've been executing. Yes, we can do better, but I just don't see the need to spend another $23,800. So.
I think.
Just so I'm clear, so you're saying just cut phase 3 altogether, or do you want to cut 3.1, the day workshop visioning session? On the line items, it's 9,300.
I would cut phase 3, or I would change phase 3 to say, invite him to our visioning, our one-day visioning session, where we invite all our other partners and say, hey, okay, here's the part. But we have a person there in the body of the Parks and Recs director and the Parks and Recs committee members that are always invited to be there. They'll be there and they'll say, hey, for next year, you know, this is what you need to do, because that's where we start our budgeting process. Otherwise, your visioning session in May or whenever it will be 2 years, it will be in 2028 before we spend those monies, before we allocate those monies, appropriate those monies, and spend those monies. So you have to understand, you know, the budgeting cycle too. That's why I'm just, and guess what? All this will change between now and 2028.
It is. I think, again, you're absolutely right in many respects. I think depending on how far the vision of mayor and council and that strategic visioning goes, may be helpful or may not be enough for a Parks and Recreation Master Plan. So I don't know how deep you will go in those visioning workshops. We go deep, right? Because this is a very specific plan, right? And specific plans will have very specific results. So it's an opportunity to go deep. And maybe you're doing that in the strategic visioning. I'm not sure, right? The other thing that for us is, and we're hearing this from a lot of our colleagues in the state, is to bring awareness to residents of what the influence of these reductions will do to city services. So that's where the scenarios come in, right? So in that visioning phase, if we come out and we say, to improve the system, it's going to be $20 million over the next 20 years, all right, how does that relate to what the funding is going to look like in the next, if any of those scenarios pass? Because now the funding that would have taken 2 years to complete an improvement is now may take longer, right? Or maybe there's other providers that do it, right? Maybe we're going to rely on the private sector now to help us out, or maybe the partners can do it, or maybe it's volunteers, right? So we're in a really interesting place in the state of Florida right now because of these potential scenarios where the opportunity to explore the different alternatives and understand those implications is probably more important than ever, right? And that's what the visioning workshop allows us to do.
Councilman Schmidt.
Thank you. Thanks, Mr. Perez. A few questions. Can you go back some of the slides, the MPI index? Can you specifically remind us how that calculation occurs?
Yep. So that's, let's see, that is slide 7, I believe, if we're going to go back to that. So while we get to that slide, the way that's done is the company that we get this information from, what they do is they will collect transactional data from the city, right? Expenditures from the city, whether it's credit card or other information, predominantly credit card, and see how those dollars are being spent in parks and recreation services. And they'll compare it, they'll benchmark it to the state, and they'll compare it to the national average. So that's the data that you're seeing there, is the dollars that were spent and in what parks and recreation services win the city. Now, that's not the only data set, as you've seen, that we look at, right? It's one of the data sets. But then we look at that in comparison to other techniques to see if it's consistent with a storyline.
I mean, sometimes I think I've shared with you, don't really align with the data that's collected and then presented. I mean, it's confusing. Sometimes to me, it feels a little off. I mean, 130 is your highest number of pickleball, but we don't even have pickleball in the city of Destin. So how is that the highest factor in MPI?
That's a great question. And what that data may suggest is that residents are buying things here, but then they're going somewhere else to play.
What do you mean buying things here?
Anything related to pickleball, right? Anything related
Paddles and balls?
Exactly. As it relates to the national average or the state of Florida, and then they're going elsewhere to play.
Gotcha. Okay. I think also using Tarpon and Crystal Beach as a park, the dollars and the land, it does skew it in my opinion as well. But you also talk about one of the highest barriers of entry was parking and access to parks. Mm-hmm. Well, the most attended park on the list was Morgan Sports Complex, and there's tons of parking. Yeah. So when you look at those answers, barriers to access of parking, mm-hmm. It just doesn't sometimes add up. Well, there's no parking lot at Crystal Beach access. That's because we haven't developed it yet, nor have we developed Tarpon Beach access.
Yeah. So in relation to Morgan Sports Complex, and we see this in many sports complexes, is when there's major events, there's seldom enough parking. Right, so that may be a scenario. In fact, when we were talking to staff, one of the challenges that came out is when there's major events, parking is a challenge in Morgan's sports complex. And the same thing with the beaches, right? We've seen this in other communities that we've worked with that are beachside communities, such as City of Sarasota, Naples, City of Marco Island. There isn't enough parking to go to the beach, right? When it's a holiday time or a time when residents want to go and there's other people there, then there's limited parking, so that becomes a barrier. So a lot of times it is aligned with when there's an event or a highly desirable time to go, right? It's just limited supply and demand. Yeah. Or limited supply, rather, when there's high demand.
I mean, the only events that we have at Morgan Sports Complex are travel sports events, mm-hmm. I would say.
Yep.
And when they have those, there's still parking for kids to go to the new $1 million park that we just built. So it might be tight, but it's still available. Yeah. So you mentioned funding level of service is a good thing that we spent $176 during the non-season. Mm-hmm. How does that correlate, though, then? It's a good thing we're spending that much money, but some of the highest rated items were the poor maintenance and the poor operations that are lacking. How does that correlate then?
That's where I believe the slide, if you want to go to slide 27, comes in, right? Is because if we look at where expenditure has been focused predominantly in the last 5 years, it's land, right? And there's been limited amount, about 2%, that's been focused on replacement of things, right? So when we look at operations and maintenance, there's only so much that we can maintain something until it just needs to be replaced, right? And I think that's what we're seeing here, right? Is that staff is doing a great job at maintaining as best they can the system, right? But some things just require capital improvements. And if we don't improve it, there's nothing we can do to, and no matter how much you maintain it, it's just not going to improve.
Yeah.
So that's how we interpreted that data.
I appreciate it. Thank you for presenting it. And I think it's very important that hopefully the council will agree to move forward. I'm going to disagree with some of Mr. Bagby's comments about our visions and the visions that we have as a council. Our vision session, in my opinion, hasn't been successful in many years. Our visioning is not done very well. Too often are we worried about how long the meeting will be versus actually creating a vision for the city council based upon the city residents. I think we do a poor job at that, myself included. I hope we can have a solid 8-hour vision session and knock stuff out and make a plan and truly discuss the vision of the city. I don't need to hear from all the community partners about some of the things that they're doing. I need to hear from the residents, which we do all these plans and all these surveys. We have the data. We know what we need. We need more teen and adult things. Well, we don't have anywhere to put them. We don't have a gym. We had a plan to present a new gym to us. Now it's on the top shelf in Larry's office somewhere. We're not going to look at it anytime soon, right? So Lisa and her team are spread thin. I think you said that they've said that to you, and we all know that. We've heard that for a long time. How can we help that? How can we fix it, right? We've talked about planning a lot over the years for Parks and Rec, but I don't truly feel like we really are planning and executing that. The upgrades at Morgan's, if we're talking about lights, were because of a dumpster fire of lights blowing up and they needed to be replaced. It was an emergency. It wasn't planned. Thankfully, we did it. And so, yeah, we do need to give them the support. And we've heard for years when we talk about planning, this specific item, a park master plan, has been talked about by previous city managers and council members about the importance of this plan for us to be able to actually do things to our parks and recreation. So for anybody that hopefully wouldn't support it, I don't understand that. So I know this is just first couple phases. Yeah, there is redundancy. I agree. We know we need a new gym. We just spent however many thousands of dollars with the last plan that's on Larry's desk. Like, we know that. So sure, I agree that $30,000 for your next phase might be a little bit too much. And maybe y'all can come to the table with Larry and pencil that down because there are some redundancies. But I hope we can do that with you guys. So thank you.
Sure. Councilman Destin.
Thank you, Mayor. We have spent $86,000 on this already. And if we go with the next 3 phases, we will spend an additional $44,000. And with all due respect, you gave us a tremendous amount of direction, information. You know, I appreciate the reports you've done, but the truth of the matter is that if those property tax reductions go on the ballot, and they will, they're going to pass. So we are going to gut a good part of our revenue stream. And for that reason, I am hesitant to go forward with the $23,000 on the visioning. Like Mr. Bagby, I agree that funding options probably going to be pretty essential to us because our funding options are going to shrink dramatically after next October or November, whenever the election is. And so, you know, I think we have a good direction, but to spend another $44,000 after spending $86,000 on this is, you know, in good conscience, I can't do that knowing what's about to happen to our revenue. So I'm going to offer a substitute motion that goes straight to phase 4, which is an implementation stage, and gives us funding options. And I would invite you guys to go or come to our visiting session and listen to what happens and comes out of that. I think we can do a pretty good amount of visioning session there. But I can't in good conscience keep throwing these large amounts of money at these studies when you've already done 80% of what we needed, in my opinion, in the first 86,000. So that'll be a substitute motion.
I'll second the substitute motion because I would love for you to be at the visioning session. I think it would be extremely valuable for us to get your, insight on that part of what we want to do more with.
Sure. Yeah, if I may, and I'm happy to work with the city manager on this, absolutely. There's certain parts of the vision of that phase, right, that also inform the implementation, right? So I think we'd have to look into that a little bit, right? Because at the moment, we don't have any cost of what these improvements are, right? We just have the need for the improvement, but we don't know the cost of those improvements, the operation impacts. So without doing that on phase 3, then we're only doing so much in phase 4.
I would be more than delighted to have you meet with the city manager and discuss those topics.
Great.
And tell us how we're going to get the money, because it's pretty clear we're headed for tough times.
Very good.
All right. Anything else? All right. My only question for you is, so I can learn a little bit here, the allocation of 100 for capital improvements. I think that was a little bit earlier on. And I guess slide 12.
Yep.
One of the things that kind of jumped out to me is just trying to find our limits and kind of the highs and lows. And it seemed like a lot of things were fairly consistent. The statistical valid survey, what kind of statistical error did you guys be able to pull from how many people opted in?
Sure. Yeah, great question. I think the important piece to consider of the statistically valid survey is that it is a 95% level of confidence with a margin of error of 2.5%.
Perfect.
Right? So that's a pretty high statistical validity, and is the reason that we use that as our primary technique and then relate it to the others.
And then I can see where, if, no offense to them, because I've been a big advocate for the pickleballers, when 20 of them come into the one public meeting, put all their stickers on one, clearly a skew can happen if you rah-rah your group together. But one of the things that I kind of saw is like, not necessarily alarming, but just kind of interesting was improvement / maintenance of existing indoor recreational center. I'm assuming our only indoor recreational center is the community center. And that seemed to be the furthest away from the committee meeting. Our committee thinking that's the highest priority at almost $27. Our public meeting being 20, but the statistical data showing that is the lowest at $7.26. So if we feel that these numbers are true, I think that was just one of the bigger red lights that perhaps we've been talking to ourselves and talking to the mirror too much and not necessarily reaching out to the everyday person and seeing where the dollars should be spent. So that was just something I wanted to bring up to everyone if we want to take statistics into account of what we believe versus what now a 95% confidence is telling us. Right. So just a comment there. All right, so I have a substitute motion on the floor.
If I can I add something? Yeah. So see, this is also interesting, right? And this is something that we would discuss in whatever format you would wish in terms of the visioning workshop. And this would be one of the scenarios, right? If funding, like you say, Councilman Destin, is passed and there is a reduction in property taxes, right? And there's money that we don't have to maintain. One of the biggest opportunities for revenue in parks and recreation systems is an indoor center with a gym, right? Is an indoor center with a gym. That's how most systems make their money, right? So yes, it is a low priority, but if we're headed to a funding landscape where there isn't property taxes and we have to rely on partners and programs to make money, then we need to consider the infrastructure that's going to get us those dollars, right? So then our priorities start changing, right? Because then we need to look at those elements that are going to bring in dollars, and then that funding, if that is a desire for mayor and council, then our focus goes to that. And then the other question is, well, who's going to run that? Right, because if funding is less and we don't have the staff to do it, then what's the role of the private sector in it? And what does that cost, right? And how does that relate to our residents? So this is where it gets deep pretty quickly, right? And that's where the visioning discussions are important.
Awesome. Thank you. All right. Anything further on the substitute motion? Yes, sir.
Just for clarification, whether the substitute motion or the original motion is passed, it sounds like this is not a final decision anyways, and you guys are going to have to go work with the attorney and the city manager to finalize the official next phases. Because even if the original one passes, it sounds like most of us aren't really thrilled with the entire Phase 3 as well. Or is this basically your final contract and we're kind of...
No, we pride ourselves on being very flexible in our contract. So we're happy to work with city manager and mayor and council on how you wish. Just know that there may be data that we may not have because we've skipped some phases.
Right.
And then there's only so much, bad data in, bad data out, right? There's only so much information we can provide.
Okay, good to know, 'cause I want all good data.
Makes sense.
No bad.
All right, with that, I'll call the vote on the substitute motion to eliminate Phase 3 and move to 4 and 5. So, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, to 4, and then we will vote again on 5.
I appreciate the clarity. All right, with the substitute motion, we'll call the vote. It's not coming up. Uh-oh. Oh, there. All right. All right, I guess we're going to do a physical roll call, vocal. Councilman Schmidt, if you can start the vocal roll call.
Is there a problem?
Evidently.
James won't log in. He's trying to vote
Yeah.
yes.
The boomers are having trouble.
Wait, he's there.
All right, let me count real quick. All right, ayes have it, so moved 4-3. The substitute motion passes. All right, thank you guys so much. All right, with that, we'll move on to public comments. Thank you guys for hanging out with us while we get through that presentation. I will start from my right, y'all's left. You have 3 minutes up here. The light's already on. I just need your name and address.
I'll go first. All right, my name is Ricky Lindgren Jr., and my address is 175 Main Street, Destin, Florida, 32541. And press the button.
No, you're already on, so you're good to go.
Timer's running.
Timer is, I don't have to press the button?
Nope, no,
Oh,
it's
now
already
the
on.
timer's
Yeah,
on.
you're
Okay.
good.
All right, well, I guess, is this on C-SPAN? No?
Our version of YouTube C-SPAN.
I was going to hope it was be on C-SPAN because I remember watching this when I was
Yeah, it's on YouTube, though.
But anyway, I guess I don't want to be redundant. I'm just kind of using this as a platform. I think I would like to get into politics. That would be nice to kind of sit high up in the sky with y'all, maybe as with the Ravens or, I don't know, Jim Harbaugh. Maybe I can get in on the action with all the sports and everything. But I hope that, I hope everything continues to go the way it's going. I've just always been a part of the meetings, so I hope I'm bringing, the good cheer and the festivities and keep the party going with Jubilee and celebrations. And I just, I've been walking around town and, doing, we got beach chairs going in full swing, so I don't know what's gonna take to. I hope they fix the light there at the intersection because it says walk and then the people turn left right there at Indian Bayou. They need to adjust that because I started walking and then the cars started coming. Man tried to hit me. I think he was mad when he saw me walk across the street, with the Costa glasses on. He was probably blown away. There's the blown away man. So hopefully they fix that light, And I know people get mad, everybody on vacation, and then people start running them over. Well, I hope they do the cash, and I hope they build the castle, Wouldn't it be nice, the Chatworths, where they film Pride and Prejudice? That's where I go home to light the fire. I'll put the wood in there and never turn the heat on. Just leave all the doors open in the house. and just sit in there with the fire and drink some tea, call up, say, how you doing, Mayor Bobby Wagner? Well, anyways, man, I ain't gonna sweat anybody. I'm not gonna stress anybody. I'm gonna just take my merry time. I got all the day in the world, you know. I'm trying to plan my retirement, Pacific life, you know, 60 years. I'll be done. I'll make it. If I make it 60 years with the Chargers, and I wanted to talk to you about the sports coverage, because I got so many sports coverage with Scheffner and Stephen A. So maybe I can put a podcast in all the offices, the main office and then the 2 branch offices with all the sports coverage, and get the decked out library with all the books. Winning Inc. is the main thing. And I want to be like a baseball manager, because baseball, you got all the time in the world. Nobody ever bugs you. So I'm going to get the baseball management going, and then we'll be out the door. Go Ravens, okay?
Appreciate you.
See you later.
All right. Yes, sir. Yeah. And then we'll go on this side and go around. Name and address.
Jeff Reese, 812 Spanish Moss Trail, Destin, where the house with my wife decorates the manatees. I wanted to talk about the dog leash laws. We have 3 dogs, medium-sized dogs. In the past, we've had Rottweilers, so we're not afraid of big dogs. We're not afraid of dogs. We love dogs. But there's a lot of people that use the Keller Park and other parks in the streets and don't have their dogs on leashes. And we've had a neighbor, their dogs had major surgery. Somewhere else we've lived, we've had a Rottweiler almost lose his life when a pit bull attacked him. My wife's had stitches from breaking up a dog fight when we were walking our dog on a leash, and smaller dogs attacked our dog, and she was protecting those dogs, so she had to have stitches. When we call, Okaloosa County is the enforcers of this, and they say they don't have a dog leash law, they have a callback law. So if you can call back your dog, they don't have to be on a leash. That makes no sense, because if the dog doesn't come back, he's already injured another dog or a person, and it's unsafe for the dogs, and it's unsafe for the people. Now, I've been told that Destin does have a dog leash law, but if Okaloosa County's enforcing it and they don't, my wife and I would like, and there's a lot of people on, you know, some chat or something like that, would like the Destin to have some pool in Okaloosa to change their law. It makes no sense whatsoever. It would be like saying you don't have to give a driver's license till you get an accident. And even the best dog, the best trained dog, can sometimes go after another dog or a person. So that's my spiel.
Awesome. Thank you for being here. Appreciate you. Noted. All right. Yes, sir.
Hi, Rob Valentin. I live on Noriega Road here in Destin, full-time resident. I wasn't going to speak, but now that you invited me up. I just wanted to thank you all for coming to the town hall meeting that happened at the convention center. I think it's important to have the backs of the city council, as you guys all did, and I want to thank you for that. I also want to commend you for what you're doing with the Parks and Rec study, because I think there's nothing, what a stark difference in how you're approaching what you think your constituents want by actually going to them and getting their feedback and getting information and data associated with that versus behind closed doors in the dark at night and trying to push it down the constituents because they think they know better. So thank you for your job, and you get paid so much for it.
All right, anyone else on this side? All right, moving around, middle. All right, show business.
My name's Alan Osborne. I use my property at 572 Gulf Shore Drive. I got something to say later, but I'm talking about the city manager's specific item here. I know you're going to consider some things to protect yourself in Noriega Point. And if anybody knows me and watches what I do a lot of land use research. And I do commend you for wanting to make that a conservation area. But I've already had a long conversation with your attorney and Larry, and I'm not trying to overdo their opinion. I'm just going to tell you this. In the state of Florida, there's a history of the state screwing up like this deal right here, okay? It's not the first time. This ain't something new. They did it down in Bradenton. They did it all over the Everglades. And local governments went to the state and went, what the hell you doing? But here's what I will tell you. I believe you're in a position of strength right now, and here's why. I think you're stronger. You can always change Noriega Point to what you want. But if you do it now, here's what the state's going to do. They're going to say, oh, you changed it after we bought it. But in fact, right now, you had already taken the steps to make sure that it stayed the way you wanted to and fit the Destin lifestyle and heritage that we have with that area. You had said you can have a marina, but you can only have what the other people before you have. You can have docks for individual homes because it doesn't create more traffic. It's the same condo unit using the same this, and you can't rent the charter boats and all that. We're not in the private marina business, and as you well know, years ago when we tried to get into it, they told the fishermen, go form a co-op and build a commercial dock. We're not paying for it. So that's what happened, and commerce happens. But in this case, you should, in my opinion, we should hold our position, because what you did is you tagged that marina as an entitlement to the property. Now the fact that, and I'll go into this later, but the fact is, in my opinion, you have every right as a city to now look at the state and go, that's fine, you bought it. Now build the condo that goes with it or take down the marina. You simply can't convert a private marina not built to commercial standards and at a different standard, and you hold that position. The second position, and unless somebody wants to surrender me some time because I'm running out and forfeit me their time, but the deal is this. You were left out of the deal, and thereby the citizens of Destin were left out of the deal. You didn't get a seat at the table, and quite frankly, Mr. Palmer's comments about this is a done deal, bend over and like it, no, sir, we can put him out of that office. So we don't need people that don't represent us. So I think what you need to do is maintain your position that we approved a dock for all these condos. And if you don't want to if you want to keep your dock state, then go build the condos that they were approved with. And if you don't, then take them down. And so you ought to hold that position, and you ought to use that position. Now, if I can ask the mayor to have one of the councilmen give me a little more time, I'll finish with one comment here.
I was going to say, I'm sure you're going to have plenty, so let's just wrap.
Here's what I would tell you.
Yeah.
So I'll try to make it shorter than that. But you watch my shows. I won't cuss and all that I want to do. Okay? But I'm going to tell you this. I think what you ought to do, and nobody wants to hear me say the word corruption, so I won't say it. I'll say this. Failure to disclose. I think this council, as unified as you were, should ask the CFO to make an investigation of who told the governor's committee and who told the state that this project was eligible to become a commercial marina when the people who owned it obviously possessed the developmental orders that told them what the requirements were. So in order to misrepresent, in my opinion, if the property was misrepresented to the committee and the state, I say we overpaid for it. And I say that Destin and South Walton should have had regional beach accesses with this much money. Now, it is just too bad to be a traditional conservative, if you are. I am. I'm not asking you to be. But to not waste the taxpayers' money is paramount, and I think we see it across the nation. We have to stop people who are telling the government lies to get a Somali daycare or a piece of spoil for $80 million. That's just ridiculous. And so I think the CFO of this state, and I think you should pass a resolution as a council to ask the CFO to do an independent investigation of, was the committee and was Jay Trumbull and them told that this marina, because they showed up with concept drawings from the developer of a commercial marina and commercial pavilions, exactly what this council's developmental order did not approve. So my simple question is, let's not say corruption. Let's call it disclosure. Did the seller disclose to the state and the county officials who were making decisions that this wasn't there? Because I will say, in my own belief, that I don't believe that this piece of property could have passed boring samples. I don't think that any insurance underwriter was ready to underwrite the construction of this project. And I say they knew they were in trouble. And I'll say that because of this. A year and a half ago, I laid this scenario out, and everybody called Alan the conspiracy theorist. Well, if you go through my 25 years of public comments and 600 or whatever meetings now, you'll find I bat about 950. It's a pretty good average. So the fact that I said what Graham left the council for, where he went, and what was going on with that property, the fact that it came true, either I'm a genius, or I put puzzles together well, or I should be in New York picking stocks like this with Johnny Carson. Because what I say is come true. Is the property worth some money? Yes. Should it be left as a Destin Park? Yes. And it should be governed by the Destin City Council and the people of Destin. You don't go into a neighborhood that was here before the city. Oscar and Drayden and all them, they lived out there before this was a city.
Final comment.
Go ahead.
Final comment.
Okay, final comment. So I'm asking you to hold your position, get a better one. And it costs you nothing to ask the state in unity, something doesn't smell right here. And we want to know what was disclosed to the state that made this such an emergency that they had to leave the city and the citizens out of one of their most pristine, picturesque parts of their city. That is us. Everybody looks at our past, and we know that there was some untruths said. And I know it's easier to take a comfortable lie, but I would ask you to make a motion to request the CFO of this state to conduct an investigation of how this property was bought to bear.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right, anyone else? Yes, ma'am.
Laurie Sanders, 110 Gulf Shore Drive, Unit 324, Destin, Florida, 32541. Good evening, everyone. I have had concerns, and I still have concerns, that have not been addressed on the area in front of East Pass Towers, 1 and 2 at 100 and 110 Gulf Shore Drive, with the approved parking plans for that area. This includes the area of the old turnaround, parking in front of the East Pass 2 Marina, across from the condo's entry and exit, and also the needs for sidewalks. I understand Larry Jones is working with a contractor and would like to request the opportunity for the city to revisit those plans. You can refer to the packets with East Pass Towers written on, or EPT. Thank you. I just want it to be revisited.
Thank you. All right, anyone else? All right. I think Alan spoke for most. All right, appreciate you guys. We'll close the public comments at this time. We'll move forward to the consent agenda. Do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion to approve consent agenda.
And a second? Second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll drop it down and call the vote. At least let it finish. All right. Got the vote up for you. All right, ayes have it, 7-0, so moved. That is the consent agenda. All right, Ms. Kopp's asking if we want to move up. Would you say, what is it?
Item the residents just spoke on for E. Do
For
you want to
E,
push it
the
up so
holiday-
they don't have to wait through the agenda?
E4E. So I know we've already approved the agenda at this time. If anyone would like to make a motion to move it up, we can, or we can
I'll make
jump
the
in.
motion to move 4E to right now.
Yep, we're
I'll second.
going off a little. So any further discussions on that? We're going a little off board here, but if we can get that passed, then we will make that happen. So we'll call the vote for bringing 4E to the top of the city manager's report, making it the next item. And then we'll just wait for Ray to make the custom vote. All right, ayes have it, so moved. Thank you for that. And with that, Mr. Jones. or Ms. Kopp.
Sure, either way. So as you all know, on December 10th, the state of Florida purchased approximately 4 acres of previously privately owned property located entirely within the city of Destin. This newly acquired state land is located adjacent to city-owned property, which includes, of course, the city of Destin's Noriego Point Park, as well as city-owned right-of-way with public parking. The state's property is surrounded by conservation and residential zoned properties within the city as required by the comprehensive plan. So this agenda item provides copies of the draft lease between the state and Okaloosa County, which I don't believe is signed yet, at least not to my knowledge, as well as a copy of the county's initial draft of the management plan, which we discussed, of course, with the county and the residents at the town hall on December 30th. So this agenda item asks the council if you would like us to reach out to the state and start having conversations about the use of the property for conservation land, potentially discuss with the state the zoning and future land use designation being, changed to conservation because it appears a condo will not be built there. So of course we wouldn't go ahead and be doing that without talking to the state first, but at this point, just some direction if you'd like us to have those conversations.
All right, thank you for that. With that, my quick answer is absolutely, but if anyone from the floor would like to speak on that? Yes, Mr.
I'll make the recommended motion. I move to direct the city manager and the city attorney to take all required steps to change the city's future land use designation and zoning on the property from high-density residential to conservation, and to reach out to the state for input on the same.
I'll second.
All right, I have a motion and a second, and with that, Councilman Destin.
Yeah, my only comment at this point is we've got a lot of people here, I think, came to say something. And if they would like to speak, it would be the time for them to speak unless we don't want to hear from them, which I think would be an unwise decision.
Most of them gave their time to Alan.
Are you all done?
Yeah.
All right, well, I appreciate that. I figured that was what the public comments were for, because this was not a public hearing. But absolutely.
We just have public comments, right, Mr. Mayor?
Oh, no, I agree with you. Absolutely. This is our time. Come on.
Are we good or not?
We're doing it. Come on.
Honorable Mayor and honorable councilors, I'm Guy Tadlock. I live on 502 Noriego. I was one of the more than 250 people at the meeting that the county had, and I was incredibly disappointed. I mean, you're talking about something getting rammed down our throats. This is one of them. After the meeting, I talked to our commissioner, and I have some concerns about the intent and what the county plans to do with this park. Mr. Osborne, I thought, brought up some very good points. How it happened, but more importantly, I was out there this weekend over the holidays, and if you guys haven't been out there recently, you need to go take a look at Noriego Point Park. It's beautiful. The place is packed. The parking lot is packed. The city's parking lot is packed. Today, at 4 o'clock, it was over 2/3 full. I'm afraid that what the county has planned for this park is going to really affect Noriego Point Park. I think it's going to bring in an intensity to our neighborhood, Holiday Isles, single-family residents. Ms. Kopp read the ordinances. And and you look at the condominiums, there are over 600 units, single-family homes, condominiums, single-family homes, and townhouses within about a quarter of a mile of that park. And those people didn't buy their properties with a commercial marina there. So a lot of concerns about it. Really appreciate you guys working with the county and getting the town hall meeting, the cat's out of the bag, so to speak. Maybe we need to look at all the options in front of us, but I don't feel real good about the county running that establishment in our town. So please look at the possibility of what it would take to get the state to agree for the city of Destin to run both parks. Thank you.
Thank you, Kai. Anyone else? Yes, sir. Just, yeah, hit that gray button. There you go. Yes,
Jeff
sir.
Shapiro. I live at the end of Holiday Isle. And the park is beautiful. The only recommendation I would have for that is with the increased access and mobility that people can now have, all people can come around the boardwalk, you know, looking out there, it seems to me that the amount of trash receptacles that are there are woefully inadequate because you're going to have, there's so many more people coming because it's so beautiful. I would hate to see that beauty be, downgraded because there wasn't enough facilities to handle that trash. And that's something that's coming. The other thing is like the others are saying, that marina, I don't know what the particulars are, but if one of the issues was about the cost of building the marina, I think probably the citizens of Destin would probably donate to have it removed and allow the citizens, if it's about access for the citizens, if you go back in time and looked at how many people would beach there, their boats, and come there as a part of the city and the allure of the harbor, that's still serving the purpose. If you take the marina out, you're still allowing the people to access that as well. So I would consider, see if there would be a possibility of organizing, to offer to the state. Now, again, if the state is looking for those marina funds to recoup and put monies into their coffers, I mean, that's one thing that, that won't replace. But anyway, great job. We walk it every day. We're getting our exercise, and it's exactly 1.25 miles from my lobby all the way around and back. So I know how many trips I need to do to get my steps in. So thank you very much.
Thank you for being here. Anyone else? All right. Seeing none, I still have a motion on the floor, and Councilman Bagby, you're up. And yes, thank you, Dr. T.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to make sure I understand the motion because the recommended motion that Ms. Trammell made said, I move to direct the city manager and city attorney to take all required steps to change the city's future land use designation and zoning on the property from high-density residential to conservation. So that's what we're going to, that was your motion, right? Okay, because I can't support that, but let me tell you why. Because I think it ought to be left as it is. Get rid of the docks, get rid of the slips, all that. The only leverage we have is when the state or the county comes to us and requests that we change it. If we go to them, or if we take all the steps, which means we're going to bring back a land use change, which means the staff is going to bring us a resolution, which means we're going to go through all, and we're going to change it on our own, then we just gave up all our leverage to negotiate something with them. Because they have to, right now, they have to come to us and say, hey, we need to get this changed. Okay, well, here's some things we would like to see for that change. But to send the staff and to just change it, I can't support that. We have very little leverage in this whole issue. We've had almost none, okay? It's the state's property, and the state does not have to abide by our land development code if they choose not to. Now, we can go, we can work with the county, but the state can say, heck, the state could say, we're going to take that, if they got enough votes and the governor's signature, they could take that parcel out of the city of Destin. Okay? So we need to remember what we're trying to achieve here, because what we're trying to achieve is to keep that a pristine park, conservation, not a venue for weddings, not a venue for fire pits, not a venue for another restaurant or somebody selling food, because, I didn't speak the other day, a couple of us didn't, but because I'd already spoken to Drew, and I wanted him to hear from the citizens, because we're running an information operation here, and our target is the other county commissioners, because I think Drew's pretty much already made up his mind, and our legislative delegation, which includes Senator Trumbull, Senator Gates, Representative Maney, Representative Abbott, and Nathan, Representative Boyles. They don't care what we think or what we say. They care the people that voted them into office, what they think and they say, because they know I can't even change my wife's mind, but they know that if somebody shows up for a meeting, they're probably speaking for 10 or 20 or 30 or 40 or 50 other people. And that's why I wanted to get them the chance. I wanted him to hear, and I wanted to get that video. But you're giving, in my view, we're giving up our only leverage that we have, which is the land designation there, the zoning designation. And if once we give it up, we have not a single card to play. And so I know what y'all think we're doing by this motion. The way it's worded, we're going to get sent to the woodshed, and then we're going to have nobody to blame but ourselves. So I won't support this motion as it is written. If you want to have the staff work with the state and see, because what we need to do is get the state on our side. We got the people on our side. We need to get the state on our side and say, hey, you bought this conservation land. However that happened, that's not going to change, but we want to keep it for what you bought it for, conservation land. And we want to work with you to make that happen. How can we do that? Would I like to see us manage it? Would I like it to be all one park under our control? Yes. But once you give up that zoning designation, we're just, I don't want to say that word. We're not in a good position. That's how I'll put it. Thank you.
Councilman Schmidt.
Yeah, Jim, you said that, just a little, make sure I understand. You said that we could work with the county or something like that. You also said that the state can do whatever they want, don't have to follow our LDC. So if we don't do anything, what's stopping the state from just doing what they want then? I guess I'm confused about that point you're trying to make. Like, you said that the state can do whatever they want. So
the state can do whatever they want. We need to stay as close as we can to our legislative delegation, our entire legislative delegation. And we need to tell them, look,
Senator Trumbull's the one that put the money on the budget to buy it, though,
yep.
Right?
But, you know, I think he will listen. I think he or his staff have probably seen the entire 2 hours or whatever of people's comments. You know, I don't think he is married, at least my understanding is he's not married to the county. Definitely, you know, let them do what they want to do with it. I think he will keep it conservation, but we've got to engage him and the rest of the legislative delegation and not just say, well, we're going to make it conservation and y'all can't do anything about it, because they can do something.
But don't you
about
have concerns that the documents between the state and the county and everybody else talked about recreational, commercial activity and marina? I mean, so the state has already had these conversations.
Yeah,
they've already seen these plans. So in theory,
and I don't want
already
to get too far down this rabbit hole, Kevin, but here's what I'll tell you.
Well, I'm trying to talk to you legally.
No, I know.
I'm
just trying to protect us. I'm just trying to protect us.
Okay.
That conversation that they had, okay, that was a company or a person the developer hired to draft a plan, okay, that cut us out. Why? Because the developer knows that if he wanted to make it a wedding venue with all the fire pits, with all, you know, running his own fireworks out of there for the Emerald Grand and all the other stuff, if we would say, no, thank you. You know, we'll put out some picnic tables. We'll put out, you know, we might expand the bathrooms that are right there on our other parcel, you know, and we might put some cover over a couple of those picnic tables so grandma doesn't have to sit out in the sun when she's sitting out there watching her grandkids play on the beach. So he purposely had his guy put that in their request. Okay? Do I think that the Senate staff or Senator Trumbull read through every word of that document? No, I don't. And I think they go, oh, well, we got a request. Okay. Hey, that would be good. You know, that's a beautiful view. He's seen it. They've all seen it. Everybody in our legislative delegation has seen that view. And yeah, that would be great if we could get that. Oh, well, he's got appraisals. You know, the staff that was running the process, they did what staff do. Well, he's got 2 appraisals. Now, the state should have gotten its own appraisal. Well, we can't relitigate the sale.
So Mr. Osborne brought up something, and it sounds interesting, and it sounds like Tim's agreeing, but can you touch on all that?
Yeah, I can. And I'll just shut it so that it doesn't echo. But so our point here was to reach out and talk to the state. This wasn't about forcing anything. In fact, that's not the way a change to the zoning or the future land use works. There would have to be at least 6 public hearings to make any of that happen, at which point the state, the county, and every single resident in this room would be participating. So the motion isn't intended to do that. For clarity, to make the entire council comfortable with it, why don't we do a substitute motion that just narrows it down for now to having a discussion with the state about the city's conservation zoning? And just for the record, I want everybody to understand that when the city applied for its grant funding for our city park, which is Noriega Point, we were required to submit a management plan, and that management plan approved by DEP required that the land use and zoning for Noriega Point be conservation. And I believe, and I've not had this conversation with the state, but I would believe that something similar is probably the state's intent. So the point of this agenda item was to have those conversations and make sure everybody understood the proper future use of the property, which is clearly not commercial.
Okay, I'll make that substitute motion that we direct staff to engage the state and have that conversation about a conservation zoning on that piece of property.
Right, I do have a substitution motion on the floor.
Can I second the substitute if I withdraw the first?
Fair enough. All right, so we got to withdraw. And are you okay with calling it a motion?
Yeah, sure.
All right, thank you.
So if I can continue?
Let me get my second first. We got a second on the new motion. Councilman Destin, thank you. Councilman Schmidt, the floor is yours.
I think Mr. Osborne brought up some very good points, and it sounds like he has a very good history of a lot of things that he does. And Mr. Bagby is a very smart man and connected to a lot of people as well, and very educational, and so I appreciate all their input. I think, Ms. Cobb, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I mean, it's important that the city is taking a proactive measure. And I think months ago, a couple months ago, we were trying to take proactive measures, right? And we were trusting the county, in my opinion, too closely, and so, yeah, this clears it up, Mr. Bagby. I'm with you as well, because, and for me personally, I think y'all will agree, and Larry, like, I don't want to just call our Kelly, our state rep lady. I don't know who the state is when y'all are referring to this, but we need to talk to the people that matter. You know what I mean? And not just the lobbyists for the state. I want to talk to the people that know, because we don't want to bend over anymore. So, thank you.
All right, Councilman Destin.
Thank you, Mayor. I agree with the intent of the new motion. We want the DEP especially to be on our side. And I think they will be. After all, as Kim just told us, changing Noriega Point's zoning to conservation was a requirement of their turning it over to us. So they would have to reverse course, and I don't believe they will or should. The other points I'd like to point out is, as far as the dock, I would say at least it's the intent of the council to help fund the removal if necessary. That would be the most significant move toward water quality in the Destin Harbor since the pump was put in. There's no question. And those materials are quite valuable. I think we could probably have the whole thing removed for the materials.
Yeah.
And what we want to make clear to the state is that we're 100% in favor of the land being put in the public trust. What we have a problem with is the intense commercial nature of what the county is proposing. It's totally out of character with conservation. It will make, as was brought up earlier, it may make our park on Noriega Point unusable. We've only got a limited amount of parking out there. If they go forward with their plan, every bit of that parking will be taken up by the people who are going to participate in the giant waterborne RV park that they plan for that marina. Just think about the amount of parking it would take. That is 50-plus slips of boats that are 50-plus feet, who may well have 20 people staying on them. This is exactly what it is a giant RV park for boats that would require probably 150 parking spaces. And then the 9,000 to 12,000 square foot restaurant in disguise that they want to put there at 100 spaces, at 100 square feet for each space is another, if it's 10,000 feet, 100 spaces. Now we're at 250 spaces that would be required just for their commercial uses. That's a travesty. I don't believe the DEP and even our state politicians would think that that is the proper course to take. And we want to give them an alternative, a reasonable alternative that accomplishes what they meant to do when they bought the property, I hope. And so that's what we need to have discussions with them. I'm willing to go pony up money to let's start taking out some part of the marina and leave what is necessary there for the public to use it on a transient slip basis, just like is defined in the administrative code that DEP enforces. That would give us a bunch of parking that would be an alternative to car parking for people to use the park. Anyway, I think that we need to seriously contact DEP, tell them what we would be willing to do to try to fulfill the true intent of that property's purchase, and ask them to, work with us. We're going to have to look at zoning it as conservation, but only with their understanding and their cooperation. Right. Otherwise, we're banging our head against the wall. And, I would be absolutely amazed if they would be opposed to trying to make that the kind of park that we think it should be, and instead turn it into a commercial development that is more intensive than what was intended to put there. So if our motion is going to send us off on that direction, then I support it. And we need to immediately start conferring with them so that we can work together. But they need to know the only way to get the parking out there for what the county plans to do is to build a parking garage. Would they seriously contemplate that? So, we need to enter into some serious discussions and tell them we want to be their partner, not their adversary, and let's go forward with that step. And if it doesn't work, well, then we tried, and it will get quite interesting. As I explained to Ms. Kopp in some of our discussions earlier, this almost mirrors the battle we had over closing the road through Henderson Beach. At that point, we filed suit against the county because they were our hero once again trying to do that. And the state never entered into the litigation at all. They let us battle it out between us and the county, and what happened was the control of the council was taken away and the city dropped the lawsuit. But we weren't losing because we were fighting the county, not the state. So we'll see. Hopefully we don't get to that point, because I have faith that our state representatives especially are going to do the right thing. That's what I've always expected, and that's been my experience with them so far.
Councilman Guile.
I've been debating saying this because we don't ever get a chance to talk about what happened in that meeting with Palmer and myself, amongst us. But I think, and I don't know, I know he met with all of you, and I don't know if he told you his vision, but the vision he told me was a restaurant, a store, and a gas station. And then at that town hall meeting, they put not a gas station right now, right? Which still means he's planning to throw a gas station up there at some point. So the little picture they painted on the wall had nothing to do with what their real plan is. Next, I asked him point blank, well, right now that's zoned residential. Are you planning to come to city council and have us rezone that? He said, do you think you will? I said, absolutely not. And then he goes, well, then we'll just go to the state and have it overturned. So, I'm sorry. I'm not close enough?
Audio people are telling me.
I'm sorry. But basically, that he said he was going to go to the state and have whatever we have it zoned overturned. And how confident he was made me believe that he already had the state convinced of this. I don't know if that's just because that's how well he played his cards, but he doesn't seem that bright to me. To me, he seems like a puppet. But if you guys think that the state will listen to us a little bit, I'm willing to give it a shot. The other question I have is, Mr. Alan Osborne mentioned making a motion to go to the CFO and have him investigate. I mean, what stops us from making that motion? Can I make that motion? I'd make the motion to have the CFO investigate this after this one. I'll make it after this one. I apologize. After we vote for this, I'd like to make a motion. All right.
All right. Yep, and almost to go off Councilman Destin, I kind of feel like that our state representatives are on our side. I think there was two narratives that were told. One told to the county and one told to the state reps and potentially the governor's office. So I think the monkey in the middle is the one trying to talk off both sides, trying to paint the better picture for both parties in particular. So I think if we intervene like they didn't want us to do, I think we're going to find that there's some, what you call it, lack of communication, not corruption, happening here. So failure, appreciate you. And so, yeah, I agree with Councilman Destin when it comes to, I think if we can get involved and be proactive and get the state to see what our citizens are saying, then perhaps they will get a full picture and not the picture that was presented to them that sounded good without the expectation of understanding of what our representatives appoint to, and that's the citizens of Destin for our districts. Councilman Braden?
Thank you, Mayor. So what's different this time than when we asked the staff last time to go to the state and find out what's going on, what their intentions are, try to shed some light on this? I don't know if y'all heard anything, but I ain't heard a thing, nothing, not zilch.
We've had multiple conversations with the state. I think I've talked to you about it. But we've had multiple email and one large conference call with multiple individuals from DEP that are involved with this. And we had the call set up to talk again after we gathered a little more information and had the town hall. But the initial phone call was December, is it 18th? It was mid-December. I could get the exact date. And we talked about the city's desire to be involved in it and to have a say, and we informed them that we had not had a say yet in the proposed management plan and that we would get back to them shortly. Waited for this meeting, and we intend to tell them now, give them a link of the town hall meeting so that they know what occurred, and then tell them what council decided tonight.
So I guess, again, I asked what's different between tonight and what we've asked to be done?
Post-town hall, post-county management plan.
More information.
And we don't think they hadn't seen that yet? I mean, we're talking about our
They
state
hadn't
representatives.
when the individuals we spoke to had not seen it yet at that time.
It was in between holidays.
Right.
Conveniently.
We spoke to them before the holidays, but obviously the town hall was the day before New Year's Eve, right after Christmas. So we were waiting till after New Year's for the follow-up.
I mean, it would be nice to find out what's going on or what their intentions were and all that, but I don't know, Jim's talking about, you know, we need to trust our legislative sponsors and or everybody at the state level and are all our representatives, but did any of them call any of y'all and said, hey, look, this is coming down the pipe. We're looking at buying this land. What do y'all want to do with it?
They called me when I tried to have a fireside chat talking about it, and was basically closest thing to threatening from the standpoint of, we don't want to break this deal. They kept saying, if you talk about it, the deal might fall through, and wouldn't that be horrible if You then created a conservation deal, now gone, development went up. So the only information I've ever gotten is don't talk about it, even when I tried to.
So it sounds like if we go to them now, they're not going to talk to us, or, I mean, I'm just kind of confused because it's, we've asked to go talk to them and find out what's going on. We want to be in a loop, can't get there, nobody will talk to us, is what I'm hearing. And now we're going to go back to them again and say, hey, you know, this is what we want. They obviously don't care. Any of them don't care. I mean, so I just don't know.
It's a good question, and I'm
vote
confused
on.
too, because what do you do, Rodney? So, like, what can we do, right?
It just seems like
I know
what we've
his
been doing
motion's
is
coming,
not-
which is gonna be good, but like, do we call the Attorney General of the state of Florida? Like, what, I'm just curious. Like, I'm asking.
I agree.
What
And it
can
seems
we
to me like what we've been doing is not working. That's why I want to change and do something else.
This was the next idea.
Do we just go into a full-blown investigation, or do we kind of play a few cards and see what the state says now that it's closed? Maybe they are up to talking to us and telling us a little something.
Individuals we spoke to at DEP were new to their jobs as of the end of September, early October. So I don't think it's that they weren't trying to respond to us or talk to us in December. They had literally been on the job for probably 60 to 90 days at that point, give or take. So I think that they were doing their research and getting up to speed as well. And I think that our future conversations with them could be fruitful. I believe that DEP will want to hear from the city and to hear from the residents, and probably, I would assume, to support the conservation that they did right next door. So I do think we should have those conversations and come back to council at the next meeting with an update. Because like I said, these are not the same people at DEP that were there before the closing. So the ones we're talking to, I don't think they had all the history. Would you agree, Larry?
100%, and I almost felt like they had been instructed to stand down until this thing was closed. And so I think we're in the dynamics around the whole process are different now. That's happened, and these folks were very cordial and inquisitive, would be the way I explain it. And I think now that we're beyond closing and we know how that all has played out, we've got a better opportunity to sit down and say, okay, now, where we go from here?
I guess it's worth one more shot now that it's closed and see, but that's all at best, that's all I'm willing to do is give them one more shot at you guys talking, finding out what's going on. If not, then it's just, you know, just go neck deep, start an investigation on it, and just play hardball.
All right, Councilman Bagby, what was that? Yep, that's what I'm doing. All right, so I got the motion on the floor, and we'll call the vote. All right, ayes have it, so moved 6-1 to open up dialogue with the state and a motion.
Yes, sir. I'd like to make the motion that we reach out, I'm sorry? A resolution?
Yeah.
Well, let me let Kevin, he seems to have this down. He's over here trying to coach me through it, but, no, please, go ahead. A resolution that we reach out to the CFO of Florida about and investigate this deal. Is that okay?
Yeah, all right. All right, so that's a motion on the floor at the moment. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, I have a second. Any further discussions? Oh, yeah. Yeah, I see the negative frowny faces over here. All right, Councilman Destin.
Not yet. Go ahead, Gary.
Well, Mayor, while I understand the motivation behind that.
I'm not mayor. Don't mayor this.
Nope. You're using the royal mayor type thing here. The problem with that is we are now, by going forward with this, accusing the state of committing perhaps fraud. Is our goal to overturn this purchase? Because if that's what happened, then that's what we would do. And you must remember the CFO was a member of the cabinet. He voted for this.
Yeah, he voted no.
There were no no's.
Yeah,
was there.
It was unanimous.
Maybe. In any event, at this point, in my opinion, is premature. We want to try to work with those guys. And it just is going to fly in the face of that because we're accusing them either of being dumb or committing things they shouldn't be committing. At this point, that would be very unfortunate and very fruitless to go forward on that at the moment. So while that may be something that comes at the end, it shouldn't be at the beginning.
Councilman Bagby.
Yeah, I'm not going to support the motion, and I understand the passion, and I get it, and I think it stinks to high heaven, but in my mind, again, we're running an operation here, and the key to this operation really is our legislative delegation and DEP. And DEP, the last time I checked the structure of this state, works for the governor. And so if we want to get people to work with us and listen to us and give us an opportunity, you don't turn around and slap them in the face and say, and oh, by the way, you crooks need to do something. Okay? We either got to go one way or the other. I mean, and we can go either way. It's up to the council. You know, we can file a lawsuit. We can request the state's attorney investigation. We can request the CFO look at it. We can request a lot of different things. But all those outcomes are negative for our city and our citizens, and most importantly, that parcel, okay, that we want to protect. And I think we try to work with people. We go forward with a good faith effort of trying to get DEP on our side to say, yeah, same requirement that was on Noriega Point, conservation, got to be. You can't be doing this other stuff because if you go up there and you spit in their face, don't act surprised when they just slap you back. And let me tell you, the state can slap us a hell of a lot harder than we can slap them. That's.
Councilman Schmidt.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I respect it, Mr. Gile. I like it. Larry, a couple months ago when we talked to Kelly or whoever we talked to before it closed, what was the communication about what we should or shouldn't do with Trumbull's office? Wasn't there specific feedback when y'all started this first adventure 2 or 3 months ago?
Well,
he didn't want to talk about it until it closed.
Actually, I did talk to him about it prior to it closing, and his feeling to me in my conversation was that he would like to see it be a state park, in the state park system. And I told him I didn't see council objecting to that too harshly, considering what the alternative was looking for, what the Okaloosa County was looking at doing. So we did have a conversation, and I know that the conversation we had with.
So there's never any conversation from Kelly about Trumbull's office wanting us to stop talking about this?
Well, I think it was, to a degree, yes. And I'm trying to get my thoughts back to where we were. I know that Kelly had some conversation on our behalf with Senator Trumbull's office that he wanted to see it closed and then take whatever path would take from there. And so that, kind of tamp down the rhetoric so that it wouldn't be a back and forth and a battle. And that once we got it closed, then we could have those conversations. But, subsequent to that, I did have a conversation with
Senator
Trumbull. Yes, sir.
I don't take it as a slap in the face or as an accusation thing. I take it as we're requesting the CFO to go look further into this deal to just make sure all things were aligned properly, that there was no misinformation. I don't think Mr. Giles' motion was to send a lawsuit to their desk accusing them of illegal impropriety or problems. It was, can you go investigate this deal that happened and just make sure everything's on the up and up? And I believe we've been trying to do in good faith with everybody. We've sent our Kelly Heusler to go talk to Trumbull and all of the people, and we've tried to talk to DEP a couple times now. Now there's new people in the offices, like Ms. Kopp said, which I believe, but it's just further along. So a resolution is just a resolution. It doesn't mean that they have to agree to our resolution, right? Just because we ask the CFO to do this doesn't mean he will do it. But I'm all for it because this is, in my opinion, a respectful way of asking the state to just double check what they're doing and not just believing senators and congressmen and women. So let's do it.
All right. Councilman Braden?
Thank you, Mayor. I'm a little on the fence. I mean, I like the motion, I want to support it. It may just be a little bit premature. I mean, I feel like I've already been slapped in the face by the state when they tell our mayor to just sit there and shut up, don't say anything. We got this. I'd like some answers. I mean, it reminds me of when we were going through Gulf Power, their contract. And it was standing room only, you know. We want Gulf Power, we don't care what the rates are, yada, 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 you know, do it. Well, they didn't realize that that was our only negotiating power, was having that in the contract to buy the power, our power system. That was the only thing we had to hold on to negotiate with. We give that up, we can't negotiate no more. They didn't realize that. So does the state know something we don't know? Is that the reason they're saying, look, you know, y'all just trust us, you know, let's let this happen, play out? So I don't know. Then I feel like the new staff, you know, everybody that was involved in this is all gone now. So the new staff is like, well, you know, don't know, we'll look into it, but it is what it is. You know, they've already done it. It's been bought, closed. There ain't no changing it. It is what it is. So I don't know. I don't know. Like I say, I feel like I've already been slapped in the face by the state, and they don't care if they came to us and told us something. You know, look, we got this. Just sit back. You know, promise you it's going to be a sweet deal. Nothing. Just shut up and don't talk about it.
And to give them a fair shake, it was particularly the county on behalf talking about, hey, stand down, get this through, then we can talk. And now, to your point, we did that. We're playing good partnership. Oh, by the way, here's the project. It's a done deal. Sorry, come again. So that's where I feel like I've gotten slapped in the face. Is
so by the county, not
the county.
State.
Yeah, I would give that burden to the county, saying, no, we're in this together. We're all local electeds here. We're working, and then communication's over. We already have designs, input's done. We'll listen, but we got our minds made up.
True.
Yeah, yeah.
True. Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir. Councilman Destin.
Thank you, Mayor. And once again, the point of this motion is to what? Overturn the transaction? To accuse all our elected representatives of doing something they shouldn't have done? If they do the investigation and finds everything was on the up and up, okay. If it shows that someone has done something wrong, then it could question the entire purchase. That is like shooting ourselves in the foot, in my opinion, right now. If we try to do that rather than go forward to try to cooperate and work with DEP and with our elected representatives, to do this is just counterproductive.
Councilwoman Trammell.
Let's just say I'll agree with Mr. Destin. It's easier. I'll just keep it short. I don't know how anyone can react to us in good faith when we're turning around investigating. That's just the point. So I will not support the motion.
Councilman Bagby.
Yeah, I would like to get an answer to Mr. Destin's first question, because maybe I don't understand. What is it exactly we are asking the CFO to investigate? Exactly.
The seller's non-disclosure.
The sell, yeah. The seller's non-disclosure of what? That he owned the property? That the property was? The original use of the property versus what he sold it to be intended to be used for.
No, what do you think he sold it for?
Well, it was built as a residential.
No, it was approved as a HDR, high-density residential condominium. We approved it,
Right.
okay? That's
And now
what it
they're
was
trying to
approved
convert it
as.
to a commercial marina.
Not the seller.
Well, that's what we want to investigate, to see if
What
the
do we,
seller.
what, the seller didn't say,
Were
you
you
can
there?
have a commercial marina.
Were
The
you
seller
there?
said, you can give me $84 million and this is yours. So the seller, that's why I don't
The
understand.
seller had a plan, though, with drawings, right?
Yeah.
That he submitted to the state,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So then, yes, the seller did tell the state that he wanted to put that, y'all should potentially put a marina here. That
No,
was in
he
his
said-
plan that he submitted for the grant, to the whole state.
Yeah.
The seller
what he
had that
submitted-
application.
Okay,
That was his application.
I think
The
here's the
seller's.
disconnect. The seller had approved plans that we approved. Right? With a condo, with a marina that we approved. Yeah, residential marina that we approved, okay? And you have a piece of land. I mean, if you owned a piece of land and somebody came up and offered you $80 million for it, you'd probably sell it. You'd let them worry about getting it rezoned or, whatever's left on there. You'd let them worry about doing the environmental studies. You'd just sell the dadgum property. If somebody wants to come pay me $2 million for my house tonight, it's theirs. I will pack Jenny up and take a few things out of that bad boy, and we will be and I don't care what they do with it, because for $2 million, it's theirs. So I'm not sure exactly what you want us to investigate. Did he have approved plans? Yes. Did he go get appraisals based on those approved plans? Happens all the time, all over this country, where a guy says, hey, I got an approved condo here, Now, I probably can't build this condo, but, or I don't want to build this condo, or I can't build this condo because I don't have the funding, or I don't have, whatever reason. But I got appraisals based on the approved plans that I have, and here's what the appraisals say it's worth for that property with those approved plans. Now, if the state or somebody else wants to do something else with that property, that's fine, as long as you pay me what the property appraised at. And that was a real estate transaction.
When did the state get into business to bailing out developers that?
They're
decided
not in the business of.
Well, that's what they did here.
They're in the business of protecting, they wanted to protect that parcel.
That's what they did here. They paid the man for what he could have made off the property because he had a development order on
Because
it.
that's what he had appraisals for, and that's the way, just like we pay.
So they bailed him
We
out.
did the same thing for a hotel out there on Crystal Beach, okay?
So the state bailed him out?
No. Did we bail out the guys that we bought the property from out in Crystal Beach? No, we wanted public beach. And we said, okay, you got an appraisal. I didn't think One Harbor Place, no way that piece of property was worth $9 million a year after the guy paid $4 million or $5 million, whatever for it. No way. Did we bail him out? No, we wanted that iconic view of property at the end of the bridge there at One Harbor. I don't think anybody up here voted to give him $9 million to bail him out. I think and I believe the words were actually stated by a member of this council, we will pay whatever it takes to get that parcel. Okay? And that's what we did. We paid almost double for what that property was worth. But it appraised at that, so guess what we have to do by our rules? State has the same rules. You bring me two appraisals, okay, I got to pay it. I may not agree with the appraisals. I don't agree with the appraisals that they got on that parcel out on Noriega Point. I'm right with Alan. Yeah, they probably overpaid $50 million for it. Probably
So they
should
bought the-
never have paid $84 million for it, but I don't get to make that decision.
That's what I want to know, is why, that's the question we keep asking, is what did they pay? What did they buy? Did they buy the view?
What did the state buy?
Yeah, they paid
bought
$84
the
million
land.
for a view?
They bought the land.
But in your scenario, I didn't. There's no way in hell I'd have voted for $9 million to buy that piece of property. But in your scenario, the council at the time wanted it because they wanted that view and they don't want to. So what did the state buy it for? Did they buy it for the view, or did they buy it for conservation? Did they buy it for a bird sanctuary? What did they buy it for?
It does not matter. That is irrelevant. They bought it because it was their right to buy it, just like it was our right to buy One Harbor. And we could have bought that parcel for 84 million if we had 84 million, but we don't have.
All right,
So
I don't want to speak for Mr. Guile,
can we
but
get
I
back
think
to my
Mr.
question?
Guile might be wanting to know is a little bit of clarity on what information was presented to the cabinet and state legislators.
We have
what information was clearly given to them to understand what they were buying and why they were buying it.
We
I believe
have
we're just trying to
exactly
get
what was
clarity.
presented to the cabinet. We have their
Although he
agenda
didn't get a
item.
registered no vote, it was duly noted that the CFO was in disagreement and wanted to vote no. So there's confusion there. I
Yeah.
believe he's just trying to ask for a resolution just to make sure that there's no misinformation given about why the state should spend $84 million on this property and what their intentions are. I think that's what we're missing out on, and we'd like to know.
And he may have voted no because he had a piece of property
That's what
down
we'd
in
like to know.
Tampa Bay that he wanted this cabinet to buy for $84 million. We have all the information that was presented to the cabinet. We have every single document that was presented to them. I've read it twice.
Go home now then.
Okay? So
All right.
I'm just asking, what is it we want him to investigate? Because I still don't understand.
I don't know how many times we can say it. We want him to review all the documents, cross all the Ts, dot all the Is, make sure everything was legitimate, everything was presented accurately, that there was nothing withheld, and that they based that decision based off true and accurate information.
And you don't think he did that as the CFO and a member of the cabinet?
You don't think anybody here makes a mistake ever, Jim Bagby? Because you look over
No,
here
I
at this
make a
staff
mistake
that's way
every
more
day.
educated than you are on financial situations, and you question them all day long.
Yeah.
So why don't we have the right to question our elected officials at a higher level, or appointed officials, to do that same investigation, or ask them to answer for themselves, the same way that you ask our staff to answer for themselves?
Well, and I'll tell you, because, yeah, I make mistakes every day. I probably make more than all y'all put together. But here's what's going to happen, okay? And I respect y'all and I love you, but I just not sure you understand this. The only thing that's going to happen if we pass this resolution right now is tomorrow morning, statewide, because I read all the little state blogs, the headline is going to be Destin City Council directs CFO to conduct an investigation on that purchase. And unless you have some information where I don't think it was right, but there's a difference between, me not thinking it's right or that they overpaid for it, which I do think they overpaid for it, and me having a belief that they did something wrong. Because they followed their process, they had the two appraisals, they paid what the appraisals were for, and they followed their process. And not a single person, and I watch Alan all the time, has made what I would say an allegation of criminal activity or illegal or even immoral or unethical activity.
None of us claimed any of that up here. None of us said that we want the investigation based off criminal, immoral activity. Not one of us made that comment.
Guys, y'all are...
So what's wrong with that headline if that comes out, Jim? I'm just curious.
Because
People are going to
it's-
start. They're going to
because
stop
it's
traveling
unfounded.
here.
If you had a shred of evidence that something nefarious had been done, that you could say, hey, I got pictures of this guy handing this guy a suitcase of money right before they voted yes. Okay, but you don't. You don't have anything.
Or
And you're making an allegation and asking for an investigation based on what? The fact that we don't like that.
But what does the headline do to us? Does it not say to the 200 people that were in that auditorium that night that aren't happy with this entire thing, does it not tell them that the city of Destin is standing up to the big government and to certain people? Does it not tell them that?
We're gonna
I think it will tell people that the city of Destin, again, are hand in hand and are wanting to make sure that we are representing the citizens that also feel like this is an inappropriate and they want more information.
Yeah,
so
to
we're trying
what
to
end?
represent them.
What
I've had
more
people tell me that
information
this
do
is a
you
great
want?
idea.
Yeah.
I'm not
What
going
more
to keep answering
information
that.
do you
I'm not going to
want?
keep answering that question. but-
Well, and if we thought there was criminal activity, we'd ask the DOJ to investigate, not the VIP, right?
The thing is all the information you want is publicly available. It
All right,
is
with that-
publicly available.
All right, Jim, everyone, we're going to
Thanks.
call the question. Yes. All right, with that, do we know the question? What question are we answering? All right, yes, the resolution. All right.
Why was the mayor's office left out of every
Yeah.
transaction prior to?
Technically, they hold the power. I'm a political puppet, Queen of England. Yeah.
The question, Mayor, is that we are going to request
Yeah, resolution for investigation.
Why
Yeah.
can't we do the first thing first and then go into this?
What, did we pass the?
The first thing she's going to do is re-engage with DEP.
Yeah, we passed that.
Okay, why don't we let that happen?
Then vote no, and we can always come back.
Microphone if you don't want to speak.
Yes, yep. All right. 4-3 the other way. Noes have it. Oh, my goodness.
Let the first thing happen first. Let Kim and them deal with the DEP.
Can we do a recess, Mayor, for a bathroom?
Yeah, my Oura ring says my heart rate's up, so. All right, do we need?
This item's over, right?
Yeah, we passed, no vote, yeah. Motion fails. Do we guys need to recess, or we want to keep rolling? Do you need anything? Ray, are you good? We're good? No, let's just keep going. It's already 8:30. Ray already lost his Vegas bet of when we're getting out of here.
This isn't school. I can go to that.
One item.
Oh, I didn't? Yeah, I mean, by all means, we still have a quorum.
Do the state thing.
All right, back to 4A.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Council, item 4A is regarding our Crosstown Connector Phase 2 construction. If you recall, we put that out for bid in November, and bids were returned. We had 3 proposers, C.W. Roberts, Gulf Coast Utility Contractors, and H&T Contracting. Of those, C.W. Roberts with a bid of $5.6 million and a score of 121 out of 125 possible from our bid committee is staff's recommendation that we move forward with the award, and we'll bring you back a contract. The award will have to be reviewed by the DOT because they are partially funding this project. So once we get the award, we will vet that through DOT and bring you back a contract as soon as possible.
Okay, thank you for that. With that, do I hear a motion for 4A for the Phase 2?
Mayor, I move the council award RFB 25-17-CM to CWR Contracting and request that staff bring back a construction contract for council consideration.
I'll second that.
All right, I have a motion and a second. Any considerations, any discussion? Seeing none, we'll call the vote.
Do you need me to vote for him?
No. I'll get the Sergeant at Arms to bring them back
No,
in.
he's back. I thought I saw him come back earlier.
All right, ayes have it, so moved, 7-0. Mr. Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. Next item is regarding the Kelly Street speed limit. We were asked to do a study on Kelly Street regarding what's really happening there. As you know, the posted speed is 30 miles per hour. We did an assessment of that, and we determined that 95% of drivers were traveling at or below 30 miles per hour, and 85% of those traveling at around 28 miles per hour. So there's no recommended change there for information that you ask us to perform this analysis, and that's what we have before you. So absent some further direction, that's all
Awesome.
we have.
All right, with that, any comments, questions, concerns? Yes, yes, ma'am. Councilmember Trammell.
I did ask them to look at the stop signs because between the two school zone signs, it says 30 miles an hour. Very
Speed limit
confusing.
signs.
So,
The speed limit signs, not the stop signs, right?
speed limit, yes, speed limit signs. So I understand that it does during school hours, but it's very confusing because we have teams that play at that park. We have all kinds of city sports that go on there, and it gets more and more and more during the spring and the summer and the fall than it is right now, partially because of construction, I think. And when the construction's finished, there's going to be even more. There are many times that the cars are parked out on the street, not because the parking lot's full, not because they want to. But I think we need to look at that section between, I guess, the stop sign there on Kelly. Right after that stop sign, it says 30 miles an hour. Within a block, it says school zone. Then it says 30 miles an hour right past the intersection. I'm talking about just feet past the intersection. And then you're still in the school zone. If you're stopped on Kelly going west, if you're stopped, you don't see the school zone sign at that stop. You see the 30 mile an hour sign. So it's very confusing. So that's the section I'm talking about right there, not the whole length of Kelly. But that little section right there is very, very confusing. You see cars speeding all the plowing off at that particular time. I don't know where the speed counter was. It's immaterial at this point. But we put a stop sign in when we had one person that went 92 miles an hour at 2 a.m. down Kelly, and we put a stop sign in. So now I'm just asking for that particular section to be reduced to 25 miles an hour so that we can enforce some of this that is going, because it's very confusing to people.
Councilman Destin?
I would just make the comment that I'm not sure how the speed survey was done either. We usually do it by having an automatic device out there. But irregardless of how it was done, this is a school zone. The standards that we used do not necessarily apply to a school zone. We can lower the speed limit in a school zone if 4 people on this council think it should be done. I'd rather be on the side of caution than on the other side. So, cameras are going up all over the county to write tickets to people, and they're writing hundreds of them over in the school zones in Fort Walton and various other parts of the counties. It's, I don't have a problem with lowering it to 25 around the school because it's not just during the flashing time that thing is full of people. It's full of people all the time. So we are not, at this point, I'm going to leave it up to Ms. Trammell, who was the initiator of the motion, but we can take this up later, and we're not bound by any of these standards. They don't apply to a school zone.
Councilman
Agree
Guile.
100%. Well, if the council wishes to lower it in that section, we'd be more than happy to.
Kyle?
I'll support it if we raise Airport Road to 40 miles an hour.
Okay. Anything further? Yeah, if you wish.
I'll make the motion to lower the speed limit between, what's the name of your street?
You say school zone?
Beach, if you're going to do it right there by the school, it's between
Beach and Benning.
No, I'm talking about the street you live on.
That's
Spring Lake? Spring Lake and Benning.
Is that the school zone we're
That's
talking
the
about?
school zone.
I'll second that.
Yeah.
Okay.
It starts right past
Gotcha.
the Spring Lake Road.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. I mean, I just kind of feel it always is going to sound great. I guess we get to pat ourselves on the back, but if the study's showing that the only people that are speeding seem to be minimal, and those that are speeding probably don't get a rip what the speed limit sign is. But I mean, this is minimal. It's hopefully cautionary and practical, so I'm not necessarily foregoing against the data that we've derived, but it's up to you guys, and I don't think it's going to hurt anything. But I think it's just kind of, yeah, if we really wanted teeth, we had the cameras, which I know is an 0 and 7 move up here. But I'm just against, we've done the study says it's fairly safe, but at this point, I mean, it's your guys' call, so I'm not going to die on the hill, but, you know, it is what it is. Sure, let's add a couple more stop signs too, I guess. Councilman Schmidt.
Yeah, just for clarification, I would love to hear from the Sheriff's Department. I mean, are we missing out on something? Is there complaints with speeding drivers? Are we not giving tickets? Like what, I'm confused on what we're doing with changing this. I know there was complaints about people parking in the right-of-way and doing U-turns on Kelly, and then we put some no parking signs on the side of the street. I think that's helped, but what am I missing out on the speeding?
I don't have any additional complaints of speeding on Kelly to speeding any other area. I mean, we get daily complaints about speeding here, there, but there's nothing significant that stands out about Kelly Street with speeding. Just so you know, we weren't involved in the study. The study was done through the city's stealth radar. I found out that the study was being done when I did my research for the council meeting this morning. So I'm not familiar with why, other than I heard that somebody told me that Ms. Trammell was requesting the city to take a look at it and see if there was a speeding problem there, and that's what the speed report that y'all got is showing.
All right, Councilman Braden.
Thank you. Have we done a study that shows that kids don't get hurt getting run over at 25 miles an hour versus 30 miles an hour, or?
25 is actually the state and national study where incidents become very less critical. So.
I don't know. I can't support the dropping it on. I didn't support it dropping on Airport Road, and I can't support this one either. I mean, it's the school zones there. I've been through that school zone. I stop at that stop sign. There's kids everywhere. You know, schools, and you know when they're going to school, they're all over the sidewalks. Just because there's a speed limit sign there that says 30 or 60 or whatever, that doesn't mean I'm going to leave that stop sign doing 30 miles an hour with kids everywhere. So I don't know. I don't know what the. Like I said, we had a study done when the stop sign was put in at Spring Lake, and the study said then that it didn't warrant a stop sign because people wasn't speeding. But we put a stop sign in anyway. And now it says we don't warrant it again, but we won't take action again anyway. So, with that said, I can't support it.
Councilman Destin?
Yeah, I think they're probably correct that the study shows there's no speeding issue there that's different than speeding issues in other parts of the city. But what is different there is that there are 1,200 elementary kids right at and going back and forth across that road a lot. And so, to my mind, that's the difference.
I guess wrapping my head around it, I think two things come up, and I don't think you're wrong. I think this just sends another message I'm going to get, and we're going to get multiple emails this week, being like, my road is also getting spaz. What councilman's going to sponsor my reduction in speed versus what we always preach up here, or most of us preach of, well, there's a process. You know, we got to go to the Public Works and Safety Committee. Then we're going to do a speed study. And then the speed study is going to tell us what to do. And then we're going to act on that. And I get it. We're the council. And the caveat that Councilman Destin brings up will be, well, 4 of us say it, 4 of us, it shall be done. And I agree with it. I think we're putting a Band-Aid on not the problem. The problem is the road designs are too wide and the lanes are too long and too open. People drive what feels comfortable, not what the sign says. And I feel if we want to actually address the issue, we need to address the symptoms and the root cause, which is the design of the road, not the facets that go around it, which are the signs and the flashers and the stoppers. It's let's redesign the roads if we really think this is a concern. If we really want to save and protect 1,200 kids, let's redesign what a school zone looks like in our roads, in our residential roads. Let's redesign what our collector roads are. And that's a vocabulary word I've learned from up here, which is when you got all these residential roads and they come into Benning, Beach, Maine, Kelly, those are collectors. What do those look like? That should be different than the residential roads. I'm not against the lowering. I'm just against we're attacking the wrong issue. And so with that, Councilman Trammell. Woman Trammell.
I was just going to say, we have 1,200 kids at the elementary school, but we also have a daycare center there within that space. That's the most crowded with small children that we have in the city of Destin. And personally, our main thoroughfares are 30 miles an hour. This is not a main thoroughfare, should not be considered a main thoroughfare because of the school zone. So that's what I'm looking at this particular point. There are many residential streets in this town that are 25. Calhoun is one of them. There's no school on Calhoun.
I thought everything was 30. Is everything 30?
No.
No.
Calhoun's 25. You didn't know that?
No.
Just a thought.
No.
Being a former elementary teacher and knowing how children are, it scares me.
Yeah. And I would say it's more of a yes and. I'm not against. It's yes and let's continue the conversation to the root cause. While we stop the bleeding, let's continue it if this is a true issue. So I think that's where I'm getting a little excited about is it's not against the speed reduction. It's we can do that, but if we're also very passionate about dropping our rules for safety, let's address the real safety and not a stop sign or a reduction in the speed limit. Councilman Gao.
This is a little off topic, but if we can't take a break, can I get a bedpan or a catheter?
All right, we'll call this vote, and then that way you got some time. All right, any further discussion? All right, we'll call the vote. All right, ayes have it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to 2. So moved. All right. Get after it. All right, Mr. Jones.
Item 4C is regarding our last parking management and the execution or authorization to execute a contract. Michael and his crew have worked hard with these folks to come up with the best scenarios to manage our parking and to enforce the on-street and off-street parking for the city lots, particularly the Marvers, Irby Community Center, and Joe's Bayou. So it will include the boat launching from Joe's Bayou. So you've got a lot of information there in your packet. One thing I would just keep in mind that this is a nimble process. We can massage it, move it around. As we see things are working, we can expand them or contract them as the case may be. So it'll be a fluid situation as we learn and move forward and hopefully do a better job of managing the parking in the city lots and streets.
Councilman Bagby.
Mayor, I move to authorize the city manager to execute the agreement for professional services with LAZ Florida Parking LLC for parking management and enforcement services in substantially the form presented, and to take any necessary administrative actions consistent with this authorization. And then I will do the last part of the recommended motion as a separate motion because I don't think they should be put together.
Second.
All right, and with that, Councilwoman Aber.
If this goes into place, when would they take over managing these parking lots? When code would be off the hook for staying on top of getting us collections every weekend and weeknights when there's a lot of people parking for free?
Sure, that's kind of a multi-part question, so I'll do my best to address them. March 1st, that is our target date. That's kind of the kickoff for spring break. We have already sent a termination letter to Passport Parking, so their services will be terminated at that point, and at that point, LAZ will take over. The parking enforcement officer, it's a single individual working 40 hours a week. We'll have discussions with LAZ Parking about their schedule and when they would be best optimized, or that schedule will be best optimized to suit our needs. Weekends, holidays, things like that.
Okay, that's what I was, thank you, appreciate that.
And to follow on that, that's for the parking lots that we won't be able to use the camera recognition for.
That is correct, but that person will also patrol those as well.
Okay, all right. Councilman Destin.
I just want to make sure I'm correct. They're going to charge us $387,000 to do this the first year?
That's for also the equipment, all the camera equipment and setup.
Okay, and after that, it goes to 200 and some thousand?
It does drop after that.
In my opinion, that's too much. So I would have to vote against that. That's outlandish amount of money to manage what.
All right. Any other comment?
That's only because that's how much enforcement we can do to get that monetary amount for the parking, correct? Because we don't have full-time code watching those parking lots, and there's a lot of people that park throughout the year, the summer, the evenings. They just park and they eat dinner, or they do their thing and they leave and they never pay. So this is going to be where we'll be able to enforce that payment, and it pays for itself. Isn't that what you were talking about, ultimately, what they'll be able to enforce charge-wise for us to pay them?
So you'll probably, this is probably a little intuitive, a lot of our evening parking is in the Harbor District, not a lot of beach parking in the evenings along Gulf Shore Drive and along Scenic 98. That will kind of be a passive enforcement program. So the license plate reader will write citations on our behalf. It'll kind of be a passive enforcement officer, but an active one, if that makes any sense. The officer during the day, of course, will, like you said, catch those people that are parking without paying. It's the LAZ's opinion that we'll be able to increase our enforcement revenue probably at this point by a factor of 10 or more. So I would just ask the council's patience with this during this first year and see how it goes.
And to further kind of hopefully massage Councilman Destin's concerns, is it base pay plus a percentage of ticket?
No, it's not. It's not a pay-to-play kind of you get more money if you write more tickets situation.
Okay, so this is just a base, and we're not playing
most of
gotcha
this
games.
Most of this is structured as flat fees.
Okay, excellent. All right, Councilman Braden.
Thanks. How much were we paying or was Passport receiving from our parking?
$80,000 per year. That's what Crystal just said.
So we're going from 80,000 to 337, or?
Yes, sir, but we are adding a lot of equipment, camera equipment, kiosks, and things like that. So it kind of facilitate payment, either willingly or unwillingly, because if you attempt to park without paying in the Zerby Community Center, Marlar, or Joe's Bayou, if you attempt to use those facilities parking without paying, you'll get a citation.
So I guess basically what they're saying is what they're going to do is going to pay. They're going to pay for themselves. It's going to make the revenue is going to increase so much. It's basically paying for themselves.
Well, they're also going to be implementing something they're calling a flexible rate schedule. So during this time of year, when it's kind of the off season, that the pay rates will be lower in our lots, and that'll be adjusted throughout the year based on demand. And we'll certainly be working hand in hand with them to kind of set those schedules well in advance.
Councilman Bagby?
Yeah, to just assuage your and Councilman Destin's concerns, the actual cost of the operation is $203,000 for the coming year. So it is a $123,000 increase. But paragraph 6.1 of the contract gives us the ability to cancel with 30 days notice. And so what I would expect is that this time next year, you all would look at the numbers from 2026 and say, yeah, we increased our collections by a factor of 10 and this is the best deal we ever got. Or say, we didn't increase it a single penny, but we increased our cost by $120,000 and here's your 30 days notice. I mean, so it's not like we're locking in on a 5-year contract and this is the only thing we can do.
All right, I got Councilman Schmidt, then Councilman Destin.
Thanks. I know this might be an attorney thing, but maybe Larry, you can handle it since she had to go on a break. But I believe we have a fee schedule that sets our parking fees. So ahead of March 1, do we need to have anything brought to us? I'd be happy to sponsor some potential fee structure, right?
Certainly be worth looking at. And if there's
Right now it
changes we
says
need to
we'll
make,
charge
yeah.
X amount of dollars. It doesn't say anything about a
And if it's going to be dynamic, so yes, we'd absolutely.
You want to get that to us, I guess,
Sure.
before, whenever y'all feel like it's
Sure.
ready? Okay.
Councilman Destin.
Oh, just a question on the cancellation, 30 days or whatever it is. Do we buy the equipment or do they take it and remove it and take it with them?
Yeah, we're buying the equipment.
That's what I thought. So it's a cancellation with $100 and some $1,000 fine. The other question is, for $200,000 a year, how many people can we hire?
It's one.
We're paying $200,000 for one.
No, it's also all of the monitoring fees, the maintenance, all that comes along with it. So
Okay,
once
now
once the equipment's in place, we don't touch it. They come and maintain it. They do everything.
Question. That's not my question. Is
Okay.
we have one person that works for the city of Destin now that does that. How much do we pay him a year? So I'm saying, if we're going to spend $200,000 to pay these guys after the equipment, how many enforcement people could we hire on our own? And
2.5.
I'm going to say one. I'm going to say the same one because if we're still paying passport parking, $80,000 per year for all the fees and everything that goes along with that, and I think hiring an enforcement officer with benefits and everything would be right around $100,000 a year, maybe slightly less. So it'd be about even.
one other question. What percentage of people are actually paying these fines? I know we asked that question before and it was in 50 or 60 percentile.
It is. It's about 50 or 60%, which is the national average.
And is this going to change that at all? Because the best I can tell, what they can do is turn it over to a collection agency. It's not a fine that goes through the court system. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yeah. And I hate to draw this analogy, but it's almost like the speed limit discussion that we just had, that if you get a ticket in the mail, you either pay it or you don't. You either abide by the speed limit sign or you don't. And it's about a 50-50, 60-40 split about how people will legitimately kind of own up to their mistake and pay for the fine. And it also would apply again to the Joe's Bayou. We're going to be using this platform to collect the launch fees instead of having an attendant. And an honor box, yes, yes.
So we won't have a live person collecting the launch fees?
We're moving into the digital age.
I'm sorry?
The digital age. We're moving into the 21st century, I hope. And that's the case. And this thing will run early in the morning, late in the evening, when that person's not there.
I guess we'll see how it works out. In my opinion, it's way too expensive.
All right, Councilwoman Trammell.
I was just looking at the map here at the parking lot below the community center. And I know we have part of that land that we're using for staging for the undergrounding. Can we include the cameras at that particular thing? Because they're not going to be there forever.
It is our intent, and I believe we have money budgeted in the CIP for next year to completely renovate that parking lot so you'd have one ingress and one egress. So we would have a consolidated lot, paved, striped, not gravel anymore, controlled environment in and out with cameras.
With the same camera?
Yeah, same camera, but I mean, we'd have an ingress camera and an egress camera. The other thing I didn't mention was if the parking lot's full, like we ride in, there are no spaces, and you leave within a certain amount of time, you won't get a citation. So if it's like 2 or 3 minutes, 5 minutes, you just pass through, no citation. But if you linger, then there'll be a citation. And don't pay.
And then, so the residents would be then going from a license plate. We'd register the license plate more in addition to the sticker so that you know who you are, you get a text saying, thanks for being a resident, it's free.
That is correct. So we will be collecting that information, and Destin resident parking passes are available now at City Hall.
Great
So
segue.
y'all come on by. But we'll be providing that information regularly to LAZ Parking to enter into their kind of, it's not a coupon, it's not a promo code, but it's something like that. You're kind of exempt from the program. So when your license plate goes by and you don't create a session, they won't send you a citation because you're a Destin resident.
All right, with no further questions, we'll call the vote. All right, 6-1, ayes have it, so moved. Yes, sir. Second part of the motion.
Mayor, I move to increase the fiscal year 2026 budget by $337,897 in accordance with the amendment as published.
Do I hear a motion? Do I hear a motion? Do I hear a second?
Second.
With a second, any further discussions on the budgetary item for this? Seeing none, we'll call the question. Ray's got to type it in manually. Yeah. Ray, you almost there? He's smiling at us. Yeah.
Need a restroom break, Ray?
I didn't yell at you. You can go what you want. All right, there you go. Appreciate you, Ray. 2 ayes have it, so moved, 7-0. All right, Mr. Bossman Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. Item 4D is regarding the Noriego dredging project for the harbor dredge. If you recall, we went back out for bid for this, and we received 2 responsible bidders. Gator Dredging, which scored 99 out of 100 possible points by the bid committee, and Complete Site Source scored 82 out of 100. Their prices were within just a few $1,000s. Gator Dredging was a few $1,000s less, but primarily it was the timing. We're asking you to award to Gator and also allow us also to approve a contract that we will execute immediately and give them a notice to proceed tomorrow. And with that, they should finish by the first week in March is their completion date. So we would recommend approval, the award and the authorization to execute the contract.
Awesome. All right, Councilwoman Trammell.
Mayor, I move that the council award the bid for RFB 25-16-PW to Gator Dredging, execute the construction contract, and issue the notice to proceed as soon as possible.
Second.
All right, motion and second. I would like to thank Councilman Gao for bringing this to our attention. He wanted some credit. I'm just playing with you. No, all right. The sand's going where? We're dredging the sand from the bottom and throwing it where?
Into the embayments on the point, yeah, to
Awesome.
recreate the profiles of when they were first created.
Fantastic.
And any excess will be landward of that.
Don't dump it on the county's land?
I know. No. They dump it
I
on
mean the state's.
Dump it on the county.
I mean the state's land. All right, thank you for that. Any further questions? Seeing none, we'll call the question. Bob brought your button in there for you. All right, ayes have it, so moved, 7-0. Last one, info.
Item 4F is just minutes for the standing boards and committees. And No questions there. We'll move to announcements. I believe Dr. Young has several for you.
Yeah, good evening. There will be a CRA board meeting on Tuesday, January 20th at 5:30 p.m. here in the annex. The meeting will serve as the first quarterly roll-up to address pending items between the Harbor CRA and the Town Center CRA. We've put out information about this, but just a reminder that the Mattie Kelly Pier is closed while work is being done in that area. We have a lot of milling and repaving work being done in the area this month and next. The schedule for Regatta Bay South, Noriego Road, Magnolia, and a lot of others is posted on our homepage under news and information on our website. It lists the dates between January 12th and February 9th that is expected for each, the schedule that H&T gave us. Our annual visioning session will take place this year on Friday, January 23rd, beginning at 9 a.m. We've hired a consultant, Lisa Gunderson, to lead the session. Again, that's Friday, January 23rd at 9 a.m. We begin, yes, here in the annex, thank you. Everybody's invited, and we'll be putting out a lot more about it as well. We began issuing free annual parking passes to eligible residents today. Passes can be obtained at City Hall, the Destin Community Center, or online. You can find the online link on our Instagram and Facebook pages as well as our website. They also includes additional information about other passes such as the Joe's Bayou and Henderson Beach State Park passes. Our Buck Destin Park basketball courts are being resurfaced, so the courts will not be available for the next 2 weeks, but all for a good cause. And lastly, we have our instrument ready for the annexation potential survey, or the potential annexation survey, and the consultant we hired will begin working on it starting tomorrow. That's it.
All right, thank you so much. All right, getting into public hearings. Ms. Kopp.
Thank you, Mayor. This is ordinance number 2603LC, an ordinance of the City of Destin, Florida, deleting section 7.0800, regulation of the subdivision of land of the Land Development Code, replacing section 70800 by creating a new Article 5, subdivision regulations of the Land Development Code, providing for authority, providing for findings of fact, providing for incorporation into the Land Development Code, providing for conflicting provisions, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date. This is second reading, and there have not been changes to the ordinance since first reading.
Thank you, Ms. Kopp. At this time, seeing this is a public hearing, if anyone wishes to speak on this topic specifically, this is your time to do so. Seeing no takers from the public, I'll close the public comments at this time and entertain a motion from council for 2603LC, second reading.
Let me get down here. Mayor, I move that the City Council approve ordinance 2603-LC with the caveat that the staff will add a couple of things that we discussed earlier today, and I guess I missed the first reading, but one was referenced the collection of stormwater, vice the treatment of stormwater in residential neighborhoods, and I see David shaking his head, and one was water connections. Water connections will be required just like sewer connections are required. Water is available throughout this city, so it didn't say that in the text.
What was the first one? Just so I can have a note.
Change in neighborhood, yeah, collection of stormwater actually should read the treatment of stormwater in neighborhoods.
Gotcha. Okay, I guess
of
administrative.
greater than
Okay.
5 acres.
Gotcha. All right, Councilwoman Trammell.
I guess I just had a question. I didn't see
yeah.
anything, I don't know if it goes here or if it goes in parking, but we've run into this issue before where there's not enough additional parking for visitors. And I think that's important when you're designing a subdivision that you have that additional parking for visitors. So I don't know if it should be here or under parking. The other thing is, I think if you're going to build a subdivision, you should have a pet relief area. I'm sorry. It needs to be there.
At least you're consistent. And I'm sorry, before we move on, do I have a second for that motion?
Second.
Thank you for that. All right, continue, please. Anything further? Yeah, and I agree with the parking as far as the overflow parking or visitor parking. on that.
Whatever you call that.
Yeah, and I don't know where you'd take it, but yes, I do agree with that sentiment. Any other comments?
No, that's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Councilman Destin?
I've just got a question. Ms. Kopp, the changes that we are doing tonight, do they necessitate this to go back to first reading? Necessitate, yeah.
It doesn't sound like it. The title covers it, so I think you're good.
All right, thank you for that. Seeing no further comments, questions, or concerns, Ray, if you can please call the vote. All right, ayes have it, so moved unanimously. 5B, Ms. Kopp.
Thank you, Mayor. This is ordinance number 2526LC, an ordinance of the City of Destin, Florida, deleting Section 71300, nonconforming uses and structures, and Section 160800, nonconforming signs of the Land Development Code, and creating a new Article 3, nonconformities, amending and updated regulations relating to nonconformities, creating an exception for structures located within the South Harbor Mixed Use District, SHMU, that are damaged by natural disasters or certain other forces majeure by greater than 50% as set forth herein. Providing for authority, providing for findings of fact, providing for incorporation into the Land Development Code, providing for conflicting provisions, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date. This is first reading. We did have a version of this ordinance go to council back on December 16th. At that time, council directed an exemption to existing non-conforming structures in the South Harbor Mixed-Use Zoning District, allowing them to rebuild if destroyed by a natural disaster by more than 50%. So this version of the ordinance has that change. And the Community Development Director is here to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. Before we get into that, I'll ask the public if anyone wishes to speak on this public hearing. This is your time to do so. Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing for 2526 LC, and I'll entertain a motion on the floor.
Mayor, I move that the City Council approve ordinance 25-26-LC with the following changes. I have three. Number one is, I may only have, no, I have three. Built back to the approved plans, and the Community Development Director and I discussed this. What it does not cover is it says you can build back to what was there. And as we all know, sometimes what is there is not what was approved. People have added auxiliary units, sheds, carports, a bunch of stuff. So it should read that they can build back to what was approved by the city. Just because we didn't catch you the first time doesn't mean that we won't eventually have you fall within the scope of the law. My second change is billboards are not supposed to be repaired. And that goes back to the original billboard ordinance, where we were going to age them out, which we gave them 25 years to age out. But then all of a sudden, little cosmetic repairs started happening, and then solar panels so that the lights would work, and then all these other things. They're not supposed to be repaired, and so that should also be captured in this section. And finally, the site elements, it says if they're more than 50% damaged. Well, the parking lot doesn't get more than 50% damage, and the landscaping may get more than 50% damage. But what really should drive the train is that the primary structure, if the primary structure on that property is more than 50% damaged, then everything has, except in the South Harbor mixed use area, then all of it has to be brought in compliance, because what you have is on some lots you have a house that is or is not in compliance, but the parking is not, or something else is not, and it's been allowed to keep that way. And if it has to be rebuilt, if the primary structure has to be rebuilt, then it ought to the entire parcel should be brought into compliance. So those are the three changes. I don't know if you want me to make them individually or collectively.
That was the longest motion I've had so far. I appreciate that. Do I hear a second or maybe some discussion on the question?
second that.
All right. So we got that with the 3 caveats. Councilman Braden?
Thank you, Mayor. I didn't support this last time, and I'm not supporting it tonight. I know we've worked hard, and the council's worked hard over the years for trying to bring everything up to speed and get it nicer, and I know it was brought up when this came about last meeting that, you know, try to preserve our heritage, and the boathouse was mentioned and Harry T's was mentioned. If we're hanging our heritage hat on that, we're in deep trouble. And in my personal opinion, we lost our heritage 30 years ago, because Harry T's is part of that carnival down there with the zip lines and all that, and that's not our heritage. You know, I don't care if that whole place just falls off in the Gulf of America and is never rebuilt. So I don't know why this come about and why just on the harbor down there, because there's nothing down there that I know of that, you know, if it's destroyed, it needs to be built up back to standards. I mean, we got the same old drunks going to the boathouse every day at 11 o'clock. We're going to try to preserve that place. And I don't know. For that, I just can't support this at all. Thank you.
All right, thank you for the comment. Yeah, that was kind of only my thing that came up when I was going through the briefing was the billboards, not specifically in my briefing, but afterwards looking at it. The ordinance would supersede this of the billboards, or is this now conflicting?
It's conflicting. It needs to be brought in compliance.
Yes, and that's what your amendment part, okay. Thank you. All right, Councilman Destin.
Thank you, Mayor. As the one who suggested some of this at the last meeting, never intended billboards or signs to be part of it, period. And while I share some of Mr. Braden's sentiments about the heritage of Destin was lost a long time ago, I'd like to think there's a little bit of it that we still should try to protect. That was the only object of this, you know, and if you guys don't think that's a good reason to go forward, then I don't, you know, I'll be happy to go along with the will of the council, but there are still some structures along the harbor that, in my opinion, have some benefit in being allowed to come back. Otherwise, a storm like Opal will just wipe it all out, and we'll have all new stuff there and nothing of the old traditions and the old things that were in Destin. So the, you know, I would go so far as to remove the sign section. You know, I don't want to protect old signs. And on the other part, just trying to do what cities all over the country do. You know, you have historic districts. Now, are we historic? Not much left anymore, but we do have traditional things going on. But that was the only object of this.
Councilman Bagby?
Yeah, I had a question. Just to make sure I understand. So you're talking about removing the signs from the South Harbor Mixed Use District?
The protection, right.
The protection of the sign, okay. Yeah, I'm fine with that, incorporating that into my sign thing. I didn't know if we were talking globally or just in the South Harbor.
The protection we're giving them, the only protection I'm interested in is
the buildings,
some of the old traditional buildings that are down there.
Yeah, and I'm glad you said that, because I thought it was to preserve the
AJ's?
No, not to preserve AJ's, the festive marketplace, and because we have yet to fulfill our obligation to build the 3 parking areas that we promised those businesses down on the harbor that we would do, because most of the non-compliance, not all of it, but most of it, has to do with the parking. And that's on us. That's not on those businesses, whether they get wiped out or not. So I'm glad you clarified that.
And the only other comment I would have is I never intended to try to protect them from life safety issues such as the fire codes and the building codes that are updated. When they put them back to their original footprint, they're going to have to comply with the fire codes. And does this ordinance make that clear? Fire codes and life safety? He's saying yes? I can't see.
We had that discussion, and this ordinance only covers the LDC. And so,
Councilman Gao?
I just have a crazy question, a little off the wall. So we're talking about structures right now, but we have other kind of important pieces out there. I mean, Emerald Coast Scuba has a boat that was in one of the Jaws series. Is that covered if something happens out there to that? I mean, it's kind of a staple of the community. It's out there all the time. It was in one of the movies. It's big business inside this community, and it's down there at the harbor every day. So where do you draw the line, right? Is it just a structure? Is it a boat? So unless we incorporate what we think signifies Destin, or I won't support it.
Were you suggesting we should expand it to cover those things?
Well, I mean, if you want to cover certain structures or certain things that represent Destin, I mean, some of those things represent Destin just as much as a building, right?
So you're suggesting we expand it to cover those?
Possibly, yeah, if that's what you want to do.
You know.
Aren't both are moved during a hurricane.
It's down at the harbor, I don't know.
Okay.
All right, Councilman Braden?
What historical buildings are we talking about?
I don't know if we're defining it as strictly historical.
Button.
Excuse me. I don't know if we're defining it strictly as historical, but there are buildings down there. And if you recall, and I know you were here, we used to have Captain Day's Restaurant on the harbor. It was destroyed by Hurricane Opal. It wasn't allowed to be put back because of the city codes and some other issues with the state. But that was a primary example of, you know, a structure that had been there since before I was born, that a hurricane knocked it down, and now it's never there again. So, not sure what that was. That's the kind of things that, you know, the things that made Destin Harbor what it was. And
I agree with that one, but I just can't, for the life of me, just can't think of any historical or any structures, buildings on that harbor that we just can't live without, or we're trying to protect. That's what I'm getting at. We're just saying we're trying to protect buildings down there. What are we trying to protect?
traditional uses, traditional buildings.
So why don't we just do it citywide?
Council, good question. Councilwoman Trammell.
To me, the answer is when you rebuild, it needs to look like the original. And that comes from our town center master plan, where they talked about the old Florida style. We haven't adopted that yet. If we did, then these older buildings that would have to rebuild to that style. They could still be whatever they wanted to be within code, obviously. But we need to adopt that aesthetic to be able to give the people something to do. I mean, something to work toward, something to rebuild to that would enhance the look of the harbor area anyway, to make it look more original. That's all.
Is that a legislative sponsor volunteer?
I'd be glad to.
Yeah, I know it's kind of already out there. Yeah. Sorry, Alan. At the bottom, at the C, yes, yes, sir. Yep, we're kind of swerving into that from this B conversation, but yes, this is B, but we're kind of getting. Not yet, sir. No. Yeah, we're using examples that are protruded in C, but yes. Yeah, that's a. Yep. Yeah. Fair enough. All right. Any further discussion? I'm seeing none on the board.
So we're going to vote on Jim's.
Yeah.
Extra long.
Extra long. Yeah. Bobby's going to be a no.
Oh. Yeah, we called B. Now I want to call C here after this. All right. Ayes have it for. I asked for it. You did? Yeah. That's okay. All right, ayes have it 4-3, so moved. Now we're moving on to public item C. Ms. Kopp?
This is ordinance number 2605 LC, an ordinance of the City of Destin, Florida, amending Article 8, Transportation of the Land Development Code, amending Section 80600, Vehicle and Parking Standards, and Section 80900, Multimodal Transportation District, deleting Multimodal Transportation District, MMTD, and replacing with Parking Standards for Commercial, Mixed-Use, Multifamily, and Transit-Oriented Development, amending and removing parking reduction options, removing on-site parking maximums, removing alternative parking options as set forth herein, deleting map 8-4 multimodal transportation district map, providing for authority, providing for findings of fact, providing for incorporation into the land development code, providing for conflicting provisions, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date. This is first reading, and this is being done separate from the LDC rewrite in that it has a more current effective date. As you know, with the LDC rewrite in general, all of those ordinances are intended to become effective at the same time upon adoption of the last chapter. That way the whole code is changed at once. This ordinance is not a part of that and would become effective if approved on second reading. The Community Development Director is here for questions.
Thank you so much. And with this being first reading of ordinance 2605 LC, if anyone from the public wishes to speak on this topic, this is your time to do so. Yeah, no, it was only first reading, so you got another bite at the apple on the next go round. Hold on, no, this is under some strict guidelines with the public hearing. Does it pertain to this specific? Okay. It better be parking.
So I'm going to say this about parking.
Please.
I don't think, and on any amendment, I don't think you should take public comment until we know what your motion is and what y'all have discussed. Because if you take our comment before you tell us what your intentions are, we can't tell you if we think that's wrong. So if you are going to take public comment on C, but on anything, tell us what you're going to talk about first in the motion, and then before you call for the question, after we've heard you discuss it, then get our input. Because me giving you input, like I know what you're going to say, nobody can do that. So that's the only thing I'll say administratively here. If y'all are going to have a discussion and make a motion, and you want to have public input, tell us what your input is first as public officials, and then ask for our feedback so we can tell you if we agree with your decision or not before you make it. But we can't do that ahead of time. It just doesn't make sense. Questions should always come after your discussion. Thank you.
I appreciate the insight. Anyone else wishing to speak on this topic? All right, seeing none, we'll close the public comments at this time. And Ms. Sandy Trammell, Councilwoman Trammell.
Well, I was going to make the motion that the City Council approve ordinance 26-05-LC on first reading with the following changes. And the one change that I want to put in here has to do with parking for low-speed vehicles. They're everywhere in this town. We need to add that in here somewhere in the requirements.
Okay, could you repeat that, Councilwoman? Add the LCD requirements.
You've got bicycles and you've got and vehicles, but you don't have low-speed vehicles. Those are smaller parking spaces.
Gotcha.
Correct?
Will do.
Okay, because they're everywhere and they're getting more prevalent as the days go on. So I think with that, we would be forward-thinking and not.
Yep. And
I'll second it.
with that amendment to it, Councilman Destin.
Okay, the multimodal transportation district, where and what is it? My recollections in the past, it was mostly around the harbor.
It's basically everywhere.
It's everywhere? Well, then.
It's like everywhere but the north tip of West Destin.
Okay, well, then Sandy's comment has merit, because I was going to say if it's just mostly you're not allowed there anyway. The only other comment I would have is it makes sense to take away the credits that are associated with multimodal, since we're not going to have multimodal anymore, is my understanding. So to give credits is self-defeating. I noticed that it also looks like it deletes any shared parking agreements. If it's a legitimate shared parking agreement where the hours of operation are different, I'm not sure if that is really applicable, but this is first reading. And as Mr. Osborne said, we're going to get some comment since this is first reading. And of course, you can read the proposed ordinance to get some kind of an idea where we're going. But those are the only two questions I had. The credits, they need to be gone since we're not doing multimodal anymore. As we all remember, we had a project came through at the last meeting that used the heck out of them. And there is no multimodal district really to speak of anymore, nor should there be. So that part I can agree with.
And that's kind of the discussion I had was I was afraid of the unintended consequences. I think for businesses that are in that nature of like a resort where clearly people aren't going to be walking to them, it's completely irrelevant to say 20% is going to bike here to a resort. That's ridiculous. And the reacting thought that, okay, if the map is basically all of Destin and you can get 20% off for being a multimodal, then basically congratulations, your single family Bay Estate doesn't qualify for multimodal. But to your point, that's something that I was worried about or maybe didn't have the knowledge to articulate was how do we still incentivize the shared parking that's legitimate and potentially still creating the mixed use in those areas that we actually most likely want. One that came to mind was next to Publix. I know that's not even started off the ground, but if that goes or we get a bite in some way, of course, we could always change our code and all that, but to Sandy's point of staying proactive and trying to stay relevant with it, perhaps by cutting everything, we almost hurt ourselves in some other ways when we're trying to get quality local businesses to partner and work together to make things happen so we're not overburdensome. My only other concern that I brought up was the unintended consequence of now just, we already loved a clear cut, but now maximum parking going away, and now we are allowing and making more parking requirements. Great in some instances, but in other instances, are we just creating a sea of asphalt? And hopefully, if we can manipulate this a little bit more for the shared parking agreements, if there's a way to have a little bit more teeth so it's not an honor system that we can't enforce. But again, I didn't really know, I don't have the background expertise to articulate it, but that was some of my fears that we talked about. Councilwoman Trammell.
The other thing I forgot, I had a discussion during my briefing about during the multimodal era, we'll put it that way, we identified transit stops and where we think transit stops need to be. And I was talking to staff about right now we have, and I don't know the name of the company, that goes around with a huge LSV and takes people to and from the harbor.
Destin Harbor Haulers.
It doesn't matter, whatever company it is, but I think we need to identify those transit stops as stops where people could be picked up then. Well, even if we just identify them on the map, because when I talked to them, they said, well, where are they? And I said, well, I know that one's in front of my business, but I can't, which is fine. And it's great because now we have 64 townhomes behind my business. They can walk right down there, get whatever they need, and go to the harbor. Mm-hmm. So I think those things, as part of our whole transportation plan, need to be identified and kept so that if we ever get to the thing where we have public transportation, we'll still have those available.
I'm on the county's transportation co-op board. I'll shoot that over to Ray and them, and because I think in 24 they've redone it. They did their own little study and they implemented some stuff. So even some of the old stops have changed. Some of the, I guess, main stops like Winn-Dixie and some of those, the community center, they stayed, but some of the rerouting had happened for efficiencies that they found. So I'll get that map to them to dispute out. Correct. No, exactly. This is just in the city. Of course, there's multiple routes, but I think there's 3 routes that are specifically for Destin, between the island and Destin, and then 2 going west and east. Yes. And then to the point of the public transportation, I think in addition, or maybe on another separate note, I think public transportation always has a black eye, but I think we should really look at, and maybe it's through the chamber, and maybe not necessarily government, but we should have some sort of tourism transportation, because if they're in these hotels, then we can shuttle them to the beach, to the harbor, and that's less unknowledgeable non-locals on the road, not knowing where to turn, where to park, and things of that nature. I don't think it has anything necessarily to do with how we deem parking, but that was something that also came up where I would really like to see things like that happen. After talking to the director of the Henderson Beach State Park, when they're at max capacity, it's not necessarily max capacity of people, it's max capacity of cars. And they're interested in exploring partnerships where if we can get our resorts and hotels to work together, maybe there's a local solution to move the tourist around so that we don't have tourists not knowing what they're doing on our roads, or at least a reduction of it. So that was just something else that I'll try to explore with us or the county later on. Anything else discussing this ordinance? Seeing none, I will call the vote for the motion with the LSV parking addition. And sorry, sorry, I'm trying to recap. Councilman Destin?
Yeah, and that's the point. We suggested a couple of changes we'd like to be seen.
Yeah, so
which
is that
I
a?
think would bring us back to a first reading.
Mm-hmm.
I agree.
So we want a motion to clarify the direction of the council?
It would be helpful.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. Has everyone said their piece? Do we have all the notes, David? I think I've got them. Okay. Please, so we don't have to do this 3 times.
Okay, so one of the things is ensure that we've added requirements for LSV parking. We recently, just a couple of months ago, passed the standards, but I'll make sure that that jives with what we're doing here. Does that make sense? Okay. There's another consideration that just getting rid of shared parking wholesale may not be the right idea because there's some places where you feel like it might be legitimate, so we'll look at that. Maybe parking minimums, and if we have parking minimums, there's a concern about maximums could be just detrimental because they could be excessive. So there's one consideration of maybe we have minimums, but maybe any increases beyond the minimums are conditional based on demonstrating need or something along that effect. And then also look at maybe creating a tourism transportation as a distinct category in the transportation section.
I would incentivize these resorts
Right.
that we're not interested in to at least do something good for us.
Yeah. Now, and how would, on that one, what are you looking at as far as creating this as its own category with?
The transportation thing, I'm afraid that might be too in the weeds. I'm afraid let's lock this out, and maybe that's a whole separate thing. I mean, don't cross it off, but I would hate to muddy up this discussion with a dream.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's what I had for you.
Yeah. All right. I got Councilman Braden, then Bagby. Oh, come on.
Thank you, Mayor. When you're going over that shared parking, whatever you're going to do with that, I'm going to want to know how we're going to enforce that, how you're going to keep track of that. Because right now, the old St. Andrew's Church, I bet half the harbor was using that as shared parking. And then when I asked the question on, what happens on Sunday when church is in session, well, everybody just kind of shrugged their shoulders like, well, I don't know.
Right.
That's not an answer.
Right.
So I want to know how we're going to change things. How is, if it's going to have shared parking, then we need the definition of what that is.
Yes.
And how that's going to happen.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, Councilman Bagby.
Yeah, 2 things. On the shared parking, the way it's written right now, gets rid of the shared parking. Right?
Correct.
And I would say if you're a developer or you're a business person and you're coming for approval of a development order or something else, you can ask for a waiver at that time and say, and these are my hours of operation, and I'm asking you to let me use this as opposed to intuitively letting us just, it'll work out on its own because you're a restaurant that serves, dinner, and they're a charter boat operation that does during the day. But, that's a conversation. On the maximum parking, I'm not sure I would get rid of it yet because really that's what the open space regulation is to prevent the everything paved over. No, because you got to have open space, and hopefully we will maybe increase the open space requirement a little bit, you know? So then that tells the business owner, oh, I wanted to build a building this big and have parking all over here, but now the open space requirement is I can only build a building this big because I have to have the open space on the outside. So I think before we just launch on some of these things, let's think them through and have a conversation. Thank you.
All right, with that, I don't know where we motion, how we motion what David has regurgitated to us. All right, yeah, so with David's list of nodding heads up here, I don't know how we make this truly legal.
How about you're just making a motion for staff to bring back an ordinance with the considerations referenced by the Community Development Director?
I'll make that motion that Kim just stated.
Okay, so I'll withdraw the original motion and
Thank you.
second the second motion.
All right, I appreciate everyone's participation. All right, calling the vote. Ray, do you need a minute or should I? Oh, look at that. He's on it. Ray wants to go home. Ayes have it, so moved 7-0. All right, public comments. Councilmember Braden.
Thank you, Mayor. A couple things that came up tonight, or one thing came up tonight. The community center. I know we had spent a bunch of money to get somebody to tell us what's wrong with that place, what it's going to take to fix it. Where do we stand with that?
They are completing a draft of the specs and requirements and the bid documents, so hopefully, Jeff, do we know a time frame of when we're looking for that? Should be fairly short order, shouldn't it?
I would think it'd be pretty soon. I'll be glad to follow up with them and get a specific time frame for when we'll get that, but I know that that's what they were working on as of last week.
What are we working on again?
Putting together the bid documents.
Bid documents?
Yes, for the roof and the windows and the siding.
For the community center repairs?
Correct.
Correct, yes, sir.
Okay. And leash law, do we not have a leash law? We got one, but just can't enforce it?
Yes.
Okay, we just can't enforce it?
Well, yeah, because his issue was the county enforces it, but the county doesn't have one. So is that correct, or is he calling the right person?
Why does the county?
Real clear on.
Yeah, so that's what my question was. Is that a miscommunication on where to go?
Yeah, if we have a leash law in the city of Dustin, what's that got to do with the county? So
that was his comment. Was he was
our-
calling the county saying they don't have one.
Okay, but the city does.
That's correct. And obviously, we have a contract with Paul's to enforce our animal control ordinances, and that should be one of those. Now, and Paul's has an agreement with the county as well. However, if they don't have one, I suspect Paul's is not going to enforce a county ordinance that's not on the books. So we could certainly follow it to make sure they are enforcing it in the city when requested to do so.
So if somebody's walking their dog continuously in, say, Kill Air, without a leash, who do I call? Code enforcement, Paws, county?
Yeah, the Sheriff's Office, Paws,
Open carry
Code
became legal
compliance,
September 15th.
we will get it to the right people. I think any of those folks could answer a question and get it to the right people to respond.
Okay, thank you. That's all I got, Mayor. Thank you.
Councilwoman Trammell on that?
Why wouldn't code enforcement handle that? They enforce our other codes. They're the ones we should be calling, not Paul's to come all the way from Fort Walton Beach over here. By that time,
Depends if there's a loose animal not on a leash and we're asking for help with that, then it's Paws. If it's just a regular code violation, then you would call code compliance. That's why the city manager just said, call code compliance, and if it's not them, we'll handle it, figuring out where.
Okay.
And you're now up. Anything? Okay. Trammell, anything? Anything in addition to your name?
Did we answer this information that we got?
The sidewalk?
I got one.
Okay, yeah, there's 20 of them.
It's
East
For the
Pass Towers too,
townhouses?
the owners here.
I mean, the condos, excuse me, not townhouses. Did we answer this?
Yeah, the additional sidewalks on East Pass Tower 2, which was.
Oh,
our-
I'm sorry. We're actually waiting for, the contractor was to be back today, and I've got a note to get with Robert tomorrow to follow up with them. There was, and I believe the young lady that spoke earlier, we did have conversation, and there was an approved plan that the that council had with the developer, who is now no longer a developer out there, but their contractor was still doing the work in the right-of-way, and some of that work was done, a good portion of it. However, there was these parts that were not done, so we're following up to determine exactly why it wasn't and how we can move that forward. So hopefully we'll have an answer for that next couple
So
of
this
days.
issue would be included in that?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have, Mayor.
All right, thank you. We got Oh, come on. All right, Councilman Bagby.
Happy New Year. Thanks to Ms. Tamara, who's not here anymore, for the year in review, and all the department heads that contributed to that. It was actually good reading. And I'll do my Tory thing. I probably shouldn't talk about this, but I'm going to anyway. I just want, no, apologize. I understand the passions on all the side, and I'm passionate, but I just think we have to maintain a cool head until we see exactly where our legislative delegation is and exactly where DEP is, because if we don't, I just don't, but I probably came across too strong, and I apologize for that.
Your wife will be proud.
Well, she texted me 3 times.
You're sleeping on the couch if you don't apologize. Thank you. We all appreciate you keeping the leash on them. All right, Councilwoman Hebert.
Thank you, Mayor. I was talking to Dewey about pro tem taking over as the mayor pro tem. I guess, do I need to be nominated?
I think you would be, and the council would have to vote on it.
Correct.
Mayor
If
pro tem?
I take a holiday, she jumps in and leads the meeting.
Ms. Kopp, that usually takes place after an election, but I would certainly let Ms. Hebert try that out.
That is totally up to you all. Usually it's after an election, but if, I think, maybe.
Council wants to make a motion.
I'll make it a motion.
You want to go on the next agenda?
Yeah.
Let's put that on the next.
Next one? Oh, my.
And the second question I have is also, there is the legislative getting back together. I'd like to be the one this time that goes up there with our team. I guess it would be you, Larry, and our lobbyist at the end of the month, January. If I could
Go with FLC.
be like the representative this time around, is that something I need to ask for permission to go, or how does that work?
Certainly at discretion of council, but that opportunity will be coming up in fairly short order, probably the last week of the month.
Yeah.
First 2 or 3
28th
days.
to 30th.
So we.
Yeah, we can all go.
We can all go. You don't have to ask for permission.
But I just want to make sure I would like to have some appointments to meet with some of the people that, handle some of our projects here, and
Yes,
just
ma'am.
sort of get my foot in the door with some of them, especially since I've sponsored our lobbyist. I want to kind of see some of the things she's helping us with.
Yes, ma'am. Glad to.
And then my last thing is, I think David and I were talking about code and just finding out how many, are you fully staffed now?
Okay, we've got one more, but remember, we didn't fund 2 positions to help pay for FRS, so we're short 2. And then of the 6 that were of the code field officers, they've got another interview next week.
Okay, great. Now, my question on that is as far as evenings, if we have complaints, is there somebody that has like hours that's working till 9 o'clock answering emails or phone calls if there's an issue at one of our areas throughout Destin?
So currently, no. I talked to the division manager and the code officer supervisor, and we're going to try to work out something. And in those situations, someone's on call or takes the calls perhaps, and then if it's something we can handle, or if it's something like the public safety issue, then we would forward it on to the sheriff's office.
Okay, great. Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Councilman Guile.
Couple things. One, Councilman Bagby, love means you don't ever have to apologize. I want to thank Lisa Firth. I saw Buck Destin Park getting taken care of. There's a lot of people that have been on my butt, and I really appreciate you getting on that so I can keep them off my back. And I'll be honest, I can't remember the last thing, so Kevin.
Councilor Schmidt.
Thank you. David, the item about code, when will we have the code presentation be brought back to council? The full plan of how y'all do your job, what your plan is, how we're going to execute it for spring break, for summer, the whole thing.
Yeah. So the action plan, I think is what we were calling it before. And so I looked at it yesterday and, wait a minute, what's the day? I looked at it, Friday, and I got about 2/3 of the way through. I talked to the supervisor and the manager again this morning about it, told them I had quite a few comments. The city manager asked us to try to get it to you guys for your next meeting. So that's what we're trying to do, is get it to you, have it ready for you by the 20th.
So worst case scenario, 1st February? First
Yes,
meeting?
yes, worst case scenario, yes.
Like Mr. Braden was talking about earlier about, God, it's so late, I forget what you said about you bring all, how to do it. What were you talking about? But whatever he was talking about,
it was good.
I'm looking forward to that presentation because there's a lot to talk about. There's a lot to talk about with code enforcement.
There is.
So bring it all.
Okay.
All of it, please.
Okay.
Do we have a schedule for restriping Kelly, Beach, and Benning? Approximately.
We resurfaced Benning last year, and it was restriped.
Okay.
We did Benning in 2 parts back in, I believe, 2021 and 2022, and that was restriped. Kelly does need to be restriped, and I do have a quote from Emerald Coast Striping to do that.
Is that a continuing contract thing, like where it could just happen at any point, pretty much? Like if you, like it's already budgeted?
Yeah, it's part of the renewal and replacement program. Striping's generally, the thermoplastic striping is generally renewed about every 7 to 10 years. And then the surface itself is replaced every 20 for local streets, 15 for collectors.
Okay. So I'm not going to make a motion, but before we restripe Kelly, I would like to have discussion about the possibility of narrowing it when we restripe it.
We did the same thing with Benning. We narrowed it from 11 feet and 12 feet lanes down to 10.5.
Well, great. So, but maybe before you execute that one, we can be on the same page and maybe of the goal of narrowing the lanes, right?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Perfect. Thank you so much. That's it. Thank you all very much.
Councilwoman Trammell?
I just wanted to remind Kevin that one of the things about narrowing the lanes, it doesn't work unless you paint the outside to make the actual lane narrower. If it's just a line, it still appears wide, so it hasn't met its criteria of slowing the traffic down. So in looking at restriping that, I think we need to look at painting those edges as well.
Yeah. And if we can find a sweet spot, we can find bike lanes, paint them green, like many other cities around the state of Florida, and now we can get e-bikes off the sidewalks. Hot dog, look at that. All right, Councilman Braden? Yeah, no, thank you, that's perfect.
I just wanted to include that in your...
Thank you, Mayor. I had a question. I know we were, was going to talk about possible giving the city manager 3-4%.
Down here.
Is that coming?
Yep. It's under my name, Councilmember Braden.
Sorry,
Good.
missed it.
All right, Schmidt's done, I got nothing. Thank you for all their good comments there. City Attorney?
Thank you, Mayor. The city manager's contract has a provision that at the first council meeting in January of each year, the city manager will be considered for a performance bonus of up to 4% of the contract value in addition to his cost of living increase. The amount of such bonus is at the sole discretion of the city council, up to 4%. So that is the question for you all tonight. If you need any information about the numbers, let me know, but they're detailed in the staff report.
Councilman Schmidt.
Yeah, I'm going to make a motion to move this to the next meeting.
I'll second that.
And for me personally, I did not know this was a contract item, but I met with Larry last month just from other things, annual thing, and I'm going to be meeting with him again as the follow-up of that meeting this Friday. So I'd like to have a little more time to the next meeting.
All right, any other discussion, comments? I see a couple people reaching.
Who's moving it? I seconded it.
Councilman Bagby, you had something? I can put you on there. Okay. Councilman Destin, you're good?
I'm ready to vote.
Oh, vote, okay. All right. All right, call the vote. All right, as always, another punt to the next meeting. All right.
Anything else, Mayor?
All right, thank you for that. Public comments, you made it this far? I hate to say you get all the time you want, but you got 3 minutes. You're a smooth talker. You can push the push button.
I didn't want to piss him off. Okay, for the record, Alan Osborne, I would have rather have answered this before, but I'm going to answer first, Dewey. I can read it all I want. That still doesn't tell me what your opinion is, and since I don't get to vote on it, your answer is no good for me. I need to know what you think, who's going to vote on what these things said. Secondly, I want to answer your question. First, I didn't ask you to make an accusation of criminal wrongdoing. I said that. They won't sue me, that's great. What I said was it all disclosed? Because I want to remind you, a committee decided, Jim, to test LSD on U.S. Army soldiers as a nuclear protection. And my stepfather helped carry his own Agent Orange into Laos to be sprayed on him that the government told him was okay. So it is the job of citizens to question the actions of government because we are the only check and balance. What I said was to ask the CFO to do an investigation on what was given because none of y'all know what was given. You don't know what was said in the committee and you don't know what paperwork because I've actually been trying to acquire it and I can't get it all and you know what I want to do with it. So what I would tell you is here's what you could have found out. Did the contract tell them that they were in compliance? Did it tell the state that the property was in compliance right now? Because until they built the condo that the marina was required to have, they weren't. So did they disclose it in their paperwork? It was a sales agreement where a large commission, and there's laws about that. What if we find out that the seller, so what I asked y'all to do was go have the seller investigated. And we all know that what happened in New Orleans with the seller, right? So we know the history. We also know that you said that we should trust the legislators on procedure. Well, on this case, they skipped procedure. Jay Trammell said it was Trumbull said it was emergency, and so we couldn't get our own estimates. So we don't know what those estimates were based on. We don't know if they had compaction tests. We don't know. Did they tell the state we're ready to build a condo, yet had no insurance company lined up, no bonding, no nothing? We don't know that. And if we're scared to offend our government by asking them to look at a deal, then we'll never move anywhere. And I said 60 million. I'll go with Jim. 50 million of overpayment. Do you think normal citizens are okay with not looking into that? $50 million, and we know one of the people that was involved had a job at the state attorney's office. There is nothing wrong with asking your government to address an issue that skipped procedure, that doesn't make sense, that broke an ordinance, that had people telling you to be quiet until it was over. That is unacceptable as citizens, and we shouldn't be scared to piss, because I don't care if Ron's pissed off. He's leaving in 2 years. I don't care. I don't care. What if you could get $20 million back for Destin and $20 million back for Walton County? Because that was $80 million for the Panhandle, and I believe that you our council, our attorney and Larry could have come up better with 40 million of what you could have done with it and still bought that land. So the question is still, why is it offensive to ask them to see if a seller, a non-governmental entity, did not tell us the whole truth? You might have a legal action for her if he lied on behalf of Daddy. Well, if he said that we're in complete compliance and you can do this, why would our government take offense to that? Y'all are acting like we're going to piss them off. They ain't going to give you no Triumph money anyway, not to Destin. So what do you care? They're holding that over their head. So I think it's wrong. Y'all shouldn't be scared to piss them off. They work for us. And the day that the government doesn't work for the citizens is the day that I'll move somewhere else. But that's not what I stood for in this country. You shouldn't be scared to ask the hard questions. In fact, you're empowered. You take an oath to do that, just like I sat in Somalia and can tell you that there's no gain from somebody from Somalia. I've lived there. But don't be scared to ask the question, because you're not asking your government, did they commit a crime? You're asking, did an individual company lie to the government? And having been an auditor for government contracts, Boeing, they all do it, and we catch them all the time. So I'm going to tell you, I caught Boeing rebuilding the engine one time and charging the government, and there wasn't no engine. Okay? That stuff happens. So asking the question of how this occurred and what the information is, because unless y'all can raise your hand and say you've seen it all and you heard it all, you probably don't have as much information as I have. But the people of Destin deserve for you to stand up, because the state don't make no tax money. They take it from us and they redistribute it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Hard act to follow.
Marcy.
The only one who... I was going to say, the only one who has a shot.
Hey, so I'm assuming that most of you probably at the dais know about what I'm getting ready to say.
Name and address, please.
Sorry, Marcy Bell, 3 Gulf Breeze Court.
There you go.
Because nobody knows, right? But I want to say for the public, or anybody that's watching this, y'all were debating on where the history is. I just spoke to Alan. He didn't know what I'm getting ready to tell you or what I'm getting ready to say, and I'm sure some of you know. But this property had an application with the Florida Forever program that was put in March of this year. I'm sorry, we're in 2026, March of 2025. That application was denied, but in that application is the same language that's in the draft proposal for the commercialization of that parcel. The application date was made on March 28th. Inside that application, there's a letter from the county dated January 13th, signed by the county administrator. There's a letter from the city of Destin, dated October 28th of 2024, where they state that the DO was extended through March 26th of 2033. Those are documents that are on public record. Then you go to the draft of the management plan, and you go to page 8 and see Appendix A, and you go to page 9, and then you go to Appendix B. And Appendix B of the draft management plan that the county is now proposing with the state specifically addresses the documentation in the Florida application, Florida Forever application. So if you're asking where and how and long and who knew what, it's all right there. They put their 2 letters from the county up on the screen the other day. Did you notice they were blurry? Did you notice they didn't leave them up for very long? One of them's dated August 19th, 2025, and the other one is dated January 13th of 2025. And in that, dang it, I didn't bring it up here. In that letter of January 13th, 2025, in that letter from the county, the last line of the letter states, "We are interested in being a part of this project," signed by the Deputy County Administrator of Okaloosa County. If you don't know about it, all you got to do is look at the documents.
All right, with that drop mic, anyone else? All right, seeing none, we'll close public comments, and I will adjourn this meeting. Thank you all for being here.